Good evening. I call to order the regular meeting of the Conroe Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. The time is 5 p.m., a quorum is present, and the meeting has been duly posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. At this time, please stand for the invocation to be led by Trustee Semler and the pledges to be led by Trustee Gambino.
Lord, as we gather today, we pause to reflect on the community we serve. We ask for you to watch over our students and employees this summer, keeping them safe and giving them rest and restoration that they deserve after a year of hard work. Also, please keep everyone safe from the high water today and from the incoming rains. And as we plan and prepare in these coming months, may we be granted wisdom in the decisions that lie before us. May the hard work of those leading the district translate into thriving classrooms, supported teachers, and students who feel valued and ready to grow. Lord, we ask you to help us carry forward a commitment to excellence, growth, and care for every child who walks through our doors, and every person who dedicates their career to making this district great. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, and you may be seated. Moving on to the next item on our agenda is closed session. The time is 5:04. The board will move to closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 to conduct a Level 3 grievance hearing. No final actions, decision, or vote will be taken during closed session. Any action resulting from the closed session deliberations will be taken in open session. The board is now back in open session. The time is 6:48. Trustees, the next item is consideration and possible action on a Level 3 grievance. Is there a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to uphold the district's Level 2 decision. The board also directs the superintendent to proactively improve our campus procedures to keep our students safe.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor show by the uplift of hands, please. The vote carries 7-0. We will now move to citizen participation. Public comment is conducted in accordance with Board Policy BED. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to address the board. The board will listen but not engage in discussion during this portion of the meeting. Ms. Spurlock, please call our first speaker.
James Rowe. James Rowe. Virginia Arness. All right, good evening. My name is Virginia Arens. I have 2 students since the ISD school since kinder, whom are currently a junior high student and a high school student. I am here today to speak about literature censorship from a parent's perspective. I remember when I started to receive email updates from my children's library checkouts. We openly discussed reading preferences, so this really wasn't an issue for us. But being a reasonable person that I am, I thought maybe this is a middle ground for those who have fear over books. Little did I know this was just the beginning. Then I started slowly hearing about various books being challenged and removed. District libraries having to remove and dispose thousands of books. Teachers having to purge their classroom libraries. Teachers having to pivot lessons because a text was challenged. Parents having to sign off for access to AP literature and research databases so students could engage with materials for their curriculum. Now an AI model is being considered, or maybe it's already been adopted to review texts. It sounds dystopian, so many questions left unanswered. How are we moving backwards? Why are certain groups and viewpoints being censored? Why is this political? Why are outside influences impacting our students' education? But here we are. This is our reality by your design. What I recently discovered was the censorship has not stopped with books. It has bled into our student research databases as well, which led me to wonder, how is literature censorship setting up our students to be successful in their current and future studies? How is this affecting their analytical and critical thinking skills? When you shelter exploration from opposing views, real-world issues, and hard truths, one could argue this is indoctrination by omission. I believe our students deserve better. I will leave you with a quote from Virginia Woolf. Every attempt to impose censorship represents a triumph of ignorance over knowledge, fear over curiosity. Let's do better for our students.
B. Gasca. B. Gasca. Destiny Milton.
Good evening. This year, like many other public schools in the state of Texas, Conroe ISD faced a proposed deficit and budget cuts. When things get tough, the board claims that they are fighting for funding, but talking does not fund our schools. Action does. Right now, you are choosing to follow a partisan political resolution instead of advocating for the funding that our district needs. Because of our size, Conroe ISD has a permanent seat on the TASB State Board and Delegate Assembly, but you have chosen to leave it vacant. Your reasoning is that you object to taxpayer-funded lobbying and will follow the Texas GOP resolution against TASB. But let's be honest, that seat is our district's voice and our vote. Through TASB, local school boards dedicate the legislative priorities that they send to Austin. Walking away, you silenced Conroe ISD's voice. You ensured that nobody at that table is fighting for our district. Instead, you'd rather pal around Austin with political allies like Steve Toth, someone who supported private school vouchers instead of increasing the basic allotment to our schools. Leaving our seat empty does not protect taxpayers. It just leaves Conroe ISD completely defenseless while politicians drain our funding. And let's drop the public double standard. You promote TEE over TASB, but they lobby representatives just the same. Last season, TEE's leadership actively lobbied for bills that required the 10 Commandment posters, promoted bringing uncertified chaplains into our schools, and implemented vouchers all across the state. It is deeply hypocritical to abandon TASB over lobbying while trusting an outside group that lobbies for culture wars and anti-public education legislation. We need to stop playing political games. We need to fill that seat tonight so we can have a voice at the TASB Delegate Assembly.
Mark Brooks.
I'm here to talk about the library material appeal process. On January 20th, this board took action on a written challenge to the graphic novel I Am Billie Jean King by voting unanimously to remove the book from all school libraries and from the library catalog. I want to appeal the board's action. An appeal is allowed by SB 13 in section 33.027. Quote, a parent of or person standing in parental relation to a student enrolled in a school district, a person employed by the district, or a person residing in the district may submit, 1, to the district, a written challenge to any library material in the catalog of a school library in the district using the form adopted under subsection D, or 2, here's the important part, to the district's Board of Trustees an appeal of an action taken by the district in response to a written challenge received under subdivision 1, end quote. According to local policy EFB, quote, the Board of Trustees shall take action on the appeal at the first open meeting of the board held after the date the appeal is filed. I submitted an appeal on May 5th, so the board should have taken action on it at the May 12th meeting. On May 6th, I received an email from the board's general counsel informing me the board will not take action on the appeal. 2 reasons were provided. Number 1, the board's decision to remove the book from the library catalog is final. Number 2, an appeal can only be made if the library material is currently in the library catalog. The statute unambiguously says a party withstanding can appeal, quote, an action taken by the district in response to a written challenge, end quote. I'm appealing an action taken by the district in response to a written challenge. The statute says a written challenge can only be made against a library material if it's in the school library catalog. The library catalog requirement only applies to the written challenge, and it makes no sense to apply it to an appeal. I am Billie Jean King wasn't in the library catalog when I submitted the appeal because the board took action to remove it. The General Counsel's interpretation effectively neuters the library material appeal process. I believe the interpretation is inconsistent with the spirit and the letter of the law. The board is legally required to take action on my appeal. Please do so. Thank you.
Teresa Kinney.
Two years ago, during a board meeting, one of you responded to concerns about the connection between policies targeting LGBTQ youth and the higher suicide risk faced by them. You said, "We had a public speaker share about suicide rates and everything, and yes, that's critical, but we aren't responsible for that." That comment has stayed with me ever since, not because it was controversial, but because it was so cold, and because it came from a school board member. This Pride Month, as you continue removing and censoring books by marginalized voices, I want to say you are responsible for that. We all are. As adults, we are responsible for making the children in our community feel safe, seen, and like they belong. We are not responsible for deciding what their parents allow them to read. We are not responsible for how their parents vote or what faith they practice. But we are responsible for creating schools where every child knows they matter. When you remove books that do not meet SB 13 standard for explicit content, when you remove those books simply because you disagree with the message, you are not making students safer. You're erasing voices and experiences that many students need so that they can feel seen and understood. I don't expect to change your minds tonight, but I do want you to know that there are people in this community who do believe that every child in our community deserves to feel safe, heard, and seen. Thank you.
John Sherrill.
Well, I am a pastor, and 2 minutes and a microphone, that's hard. But, you know, I've heard it's a fine line between a hostage situation and a long sermon, so I'll keep it short. Just wanted to say thank you, honestly. We are 10 years old as a church, and I'm privileged to have raised 3 boys in the Conroe district, and one's in senior year coming up, and we've been here, gosh, for probably 23 years now, which is pretty outstanding. And in the traveling that I did prior to pastoring, I saw a lot of school districts, I saw a lot of schools. And so that's why I say we're privileged to be here. And then 10 years in, renting schools to do portable church, I thought we'd be in a church by now, but I'm happy to say that I think finally we're about to start building our building. So, maybe in a year, but I want to double down on the fact that we will be staying committed to Conroe ISD. We want to support Conroe ISD as much as possible. The hope is that the finances that we've been able to pour into Conroe has been a blessing to the district, and we're going to continue to do that even after a building. And I just want to shout out to Lindsay Orduan. I don't know if she's still here. Man, she was outstanding years 1 through, I think, 4. And then Crystal Poncho has been outstanding. Mick Long, Sarah Dorsey, just incredible people. And then you guys. So thank you for who you are. Thank you for what you do. And I think I'm going to yield the rest of my time. All right? Take care. That was quick, by the way.
Susan Scruggs.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Vinson. I wanted to talk to you about something I've talked to you a couple of times before, and it's the harms of too much screen time during school. This is near and dear to my heart because I have a medical background in neurology. But there's some new research that's available that you might not be aware of. And I'll be happy to send you the information tomorrow. But the new research is done by Dr. Horvath, who is a former teacher, but he went back to school and became a neuroscientist. The data shows that the past 10 years, despite COVID and the downturn of all the kids' skills for COVID, that children across the U.S. and the world who use up to 5 hours a day of screen time in school, that their NAEP test scores have been dropping every single year. Dr. Horvath presented the data at the U.S. Congress in January of this year at a specially called meeting to elevate the issue of children being harmed by education technology in schools. The science of learning is greatly impeded when ed tech enters education. According to the board meeting in April, Conroe ISD has an emphasis on expanding virtual education, plus more and more curriculum and tests are appearing online with no textbooks. This is greatly concerning to many educators and parents across our great nation. Dr. Horvath research also showed something very surprising, that the white matter in the brain, after MRIs, he did multiple MRIs on children, both before assessments and after assessments, decreases. The white matter decreases with more screen time. And currently, the diagnosis of dementia is higher in children than in older adults due to the excessive screen time. So I would appreciate if y'all would really look into this and research it. It's a very serious matter for our kids, and I know y'all care about them. But I'll send you.
Thank you to all those who addressed the board this evening. Next item up is consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered and may be approved with one motion unless a trustee requests that an item be removed for separate consideration. And I have had several requests to remove items from the consent agenda. And I believe they are, and I stand corrected if I've missed one, so please let me know. Item K, item N, where's my notes here, just to double check myself. Item K again, N, Q, R, S, have all been requested removal. Did I miss any?
I'd like to request that we remove I as well.
If everyone's okay with it, I was able to speak with admin more on CH, and we don't have to remove that one. So that is K.
Okay, so the person that requested CHP removed is now asking that it not be. Is there any other trustee that still wants it removed? Okay, so item K will remain in consent agenda as because the person withdrew it. Is there any?
I would also like to ask that we keep DP and FOA on consent as well.
Okay.
Those are my requests.
Is there anyone else that wants to keep DP or still pull DP and which one?
FOA.
Okay, so that's N and Q.
Correct.
No one? All right, so then I'm going to make sure I get these letters correct. We're leaving K. We're leaving DP, which is N. We're leaving FOA, which is Q.
I'd like to discuss FOA. Are we taking it out of
Oh,
consent or leaving
okay,
it
so
on?
you do want to leave it out of, you want to remove it from consent. I just want to make sure. Okay, so item K is staying in consent. Item N is staying in consent. Item Q, which is board policy FOA, is being removed from consent. Item R, board policy GKD, is being removed from consent. Item S is being removed from consent.
I also wanted to remove item I.
Oh, and item I, sorry. I wrote that down on this over here, sorry. Item I. Please don't make me read all that again. All right, so just confirming, items I, Q, R, S are all being removed from consent agenda, and we're in agreement. So, we need to remove. All right, So that being stated, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda reflecting these items that are remaining on it?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, raise your hand at this time. That motion carries 7-0. We will now take up item S, the board operating procedures, and move the we'll take up I, because that came first. Then we will take up item S, which is board operating procedures, and we will move the policies over to the policy discussion, item 10. At that time, we will address those items. All right, Trustee Horton, you wanted to discuss the item I.
Yes, I wanted to remove it from a vote, the non-business days for Texas Public Information Act. It adds 4 additional days to our calendar in which public information could be delayed in a PIR, and I don't feel like that is the right move. When it comes to transparency, I want to get our constituents the information in a timely manner.
Anyone else? Dr. Vincent, do you have anything you want to add to that?
We actually took a look at this, and we always just try to find ways to make sure it's reasonable. And in some situations, like when something would come in and it's like on a holiday, we have to either get it done before or after, and so it's a pretty it's going to be difficult to do. So I think that's why we did it. We don't try to delay anything. We're just trying to make it more practical.
Well, some of the holidays that are proposed on this calendar are days that we are in school, like San Jacinto Day. So that's my concern, is that we're adding holidays when we are here.
Okay. The thing is, I'd be happy to take a look at that and bring, if y'all want to bring it back next time. The thing is that
Can we change it to federal holidays or something like that?
yeah, that's one of the things that Dr. Upshaw can never be gone again.
Right.
Because she is the one who went through these as far as the calendar goes. And so I will have to go and make sure, I just want to make sure that I'm speaking intelligently about them, because we spoke about them earlier. I thought I'd get that, but to the point is, if some of them are days that we're actually going to come at school, that doesn't make sense.
Veterans Day.
Would it be prudent to table it until?
That's what I would request, is that if we can do that, that would be valuable. And I apologize that when I don't know, I want to make sure that I can speak intelligently about it.
And for the record, I would just like to point out that it was a surprise exit for her husband took her on a surprise trip.
I know. Portia was gone one time. I barely got over it. So, the thing is that...
It wasn't like we just didn't plan accordingly.
No, it's good.
Okay, any other discussion on this item? All right, then I will entertain a motion to table item I from a vote this evening and bring it back at the next meeting.
I'd like to motion to table item I at this meeting and bring it back for a vote.
Second that.
All right, thank you, Trustees Horton and Duncan. All those in favor, show by the uplift of hands. All opposed? The motion carries 6-1. All right, moving on to item S, the board operating procedure.
Madam President, I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
The concept of board operating procedure was introduced to us by a third-party consultant as a forward-facing document intended to educate the community about board operations. We were initially led to believe that this document was necessary and that developing it would help improve the culture of our district. However, after working through the process, it has become clear that while the intentions may have been good, the outcome has not. This was never intended to be a power grab, despite what has been suggested online, nor was it designed to give preference or authority to any one trustee. The proposal was presented as a tool to improve board efficiency and effectiveness. Unfortunately, both the process and the resulting product have had the opposite effect. Rather than creating greater efficiency, it has become a distraction, consumed valuable time, and diverted attention from the important work before us. Our focus should be on the critical issues facing the district, including employee compensation, annual budget, adopted tax rate, and most importantly, student success. Because this document is not serving its intended purpose and it is instead hindering our ability to focus on these priorities, I move that we table this item indefinitely.
I completely agree, and I second.
Okay. I have a motion to table this item. We need to take a vote on it. Oh, discussion. I am so sorry. Discussion.
I would like to table this, but not indefinitely. So I think that we need to have a document in place, but I think we need more time to look at it. There's too many moving pieces at this point that I just think we need to table it for now, but not indefinitely.
Thank
With
you.
the timeframes, that we should think about the fact that approving the BOP today is moot because board policy supersedes it. So the board operating procedures currently contradicts local board policies BBG, BDAA, BE, BF, BJCD, and BP. So if we do decide the BOP's policy, as it now states on page 1, we'll have conflicting policies to adhere to. If we decide that it's just procedure, our policy trumps it. So either way, it's going to be extremely problematic until we figure out what to do with policy.
And I would agree with you on the regards. We, in both of our work sessions, I know that you weren't at one of the work sessions, but the other one you were, we
I
did.
was at both of them.
On February 3rd, when we were, the first time we worked with, you were in DC.
Oh, that one, sorry. Yes,
That's
you're
okay,
right.
it's okay. But I was just going to state that our council told us each time something was suggested to be put in it, that we would be creating a need to make a policy change. So in retrospect, I would agree, if we're going to try to do some sort of operating procedures, I think it would be more prudent, although it's the egg or the chicken, which comes first. I do think it would be more prudent to make sure our board policies align, even though we knew we would have to make changes, and this would trigger those changes. I just think it would just be, and right now, we just need to be focused on all the other things going on in the district.
Yeah, I agree.
So from my perspective, I do believe we need a board operating procedure. I speak from the work that I do professionally. It is best practice to have operating procedures in any government, or excuse me, any governance body, as well as all the way from your executives all the way down to your individual contributors. It is a document that puts the policies into actionable steps. That is the objective. It's also not written for somebody that maybe has been on the board for 10, 12 years, because at some point you know what you're doing. For someone like myself who is new to this position, having operating procedures lets me know how do I take the policy and act on it. So I do believe that we need to have it. I do believe that it has gotten a very formal word I use, squishy along the path. So I do believe we should table it to refine it. But again, as a new trustee, I do believe that we need something that's actionable versus me having to call somebody to figure out what I need to do. It should be in writing.
To speak to what Trustee Gambino was saying, I think that we do need procedures, but this is called a policy manual. So I think the issue is that it's conflicting with what we already have. So let's take what we have and then do what Trustee Gambino is suggesting with procedures and what that would look like. So not as a policy document.
Any other commentary or discussion? Okay, we're ready to take a vote then. All those in favor show of tabling this document for the time being, please show.
Well, that needs to be amended because I stated indefinitely.
Oh, sorry.
Well, so.
Do you want to make a
We
motion?
said indefinitely, and then Trustee Dawson wanted to amend it, so we have to vote on the amendment first.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Trustee Dungan, would you like to amend your motion? You can say no, I'm just asking. Okay, so.
No, I would like her to ask, or I would like to ask Trustee Dawson how she would like it amended, just to cut the indefinitely and just table the item.
Just cut indefinitely.
Okay,
So no
then-
timeline, no alternate?
In the next couple, I don't want to give a timeline because I think we need time to work through it, but
So
just cut indefinitely.
Just cut
That's all
indefinitely.
I'm asking.
Would you please, since it is your motion, would you please make the motion amendment?
well, we have to vote.
Can she not make, a point of order, can she not make the motion amendment herself without us voting on it, right? It's her motion. Okay, there we go.
Does it still require a second once it's amended?
We will.
Okay.
Want to withdraw your previous motion and make another one? There you
Yes,
go.
I'll withdraw the original motion and re-motion that I move that we table this item.
Second.
Do we have any other discussion on it? All right. Now we can take up this motion to table the item. All those in favor, show by the uplift of hands. Okay, the motion carries 7-0. That lets us move on to our next item, which will be administration. Trustees, we will now move to administration. The following items involve board governance matters, district operations, and updates on initiatives currently being implemented across the district. The first item up is item A, TASB Board of Directors, Region 6. Trustee Semler has asked that we bring this item to the, has brought this item to the board, and I'll allow her to speak at this time.
Thank you. I also wanted to mention Tony Hopkins, the TASB board president, has driven up from Friendswood ISD and can answer any questions the board has. So thank you, Tony. So our elected board in Conroe ISD proudly reflects the priorities and values of our community. As one of the state's largest suburban school districts, our perspective matters. I believe filling the seat on the TASB board will allow our district an important voice to ensure our community's values are represented in conversations that influence public education across the state. This board knows I've never hesitated to speak up when I disagree or when something does not align with my principles. I would bring that same approach to a TASB board position. If I believe our district's values and priorities are not being represented appropriately, I will advocate firmly and thoughtfully on behalf of our district. Leaving the board seat open does not allow our district to voice in important issues that could directly or indirectly affect our board, employees, and students. Serving in this role would also create an important two-way flow of information. It would allow me to bring back insight, ideas, and perspectives from trustees and districts from 1,025 boards across the state of Texas. This could help strengthen decision-making here at home. I respectfully ask the board to nominate me for the TASB Board of Directors for Region 6 and delegate to the TASB 2026 Assembly. Thank you.
I'd like to move to nominate Trustee Melissa Semler for the TASB Board of Directors for Region 6 and delegate to the TASB 2026 Assembly.
Can I second
Is there
it?
a second?
Can I second it? I don't know.
Sorry, is there a second?
Second.
But it's your, oh,
Yeah,
it's
I
her
don't-
motion. Yes, you can. Sorry, my bad. All right, now we'll open it for discussion.
I have something I'd like to say, please. Thank you, Trustee Semler, for bringing this item before the board. I respect those who believe joining the TASB board will allow us to influence the organization from within. However, I respectfully disagree. The question before us is whether joining the TASB board advances local control, accountability, and fiscal responsibility. I do not believe it does. The citizens of Conroe ISD elected us to govern this district, not to defer that responsibility to a statewide organization. Yet across Texas, TASB has accumulated tremendous influence over district policy, governance training, risk management, and day-to-day operations. Too often, boards adopt TASB recommendations with little modification, turning what should be local decisions into statewide decisions made far from the communities they affect. I do not believe the solution is to become more integrated into that system. I believe the solution is to strengthen local control. I am also concerned about the lack of meaningful competition in areas where TASB operates. Through its policy services, legal services, and risk management fund, TASB occupies a dominant position in the Texas public education marketplace. Healthy markets require competition. Competition drives innovation, lowers costs, and creates better outcomes for school districts and taxpayers. Districts should have choices, not dependencies. Most concerning to me, though, is accountability. In Conroe ISD, our Special Education Legal Cost Transparency Policy, EHBAG, revealed that a single special education due process case continued through appeals years after the student had graduated. The legal costs reached hundreds of thousands of dollars. Without transparency, many trustees would never have known the extent of those expenditures. That experience taught me an important lesson. Trustees cannot effectively govern when they lack visibility into legal costs, risk management decisions, and the systems operating around them. Too often, taxpayers, families, and even board members learn about these costs only after substantial sums have already been spent. In those situations, taxpayers lose, districts lose, and families lose. I was elected on a promise of transparency, accountability, and local control. Conroe ISD is fully capable of evaluating policies on their merits, seeking competitive services in the marketplace, and making decisions that reflect the priorities of our community. And for anyone concerned about having a voice in the legislature, the solution is simple. Get in your car, go to Austin, and participate in the process. That's a right we should not give to a statewide organization. For those reasons, I will be voting no. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I would like to point out that local control does not mean limiting board members to specific organizations or telling board members that they can't advocate for our district to other organizations. I also want to say it won't integrate us into the system or any system for me to be on the TASB board. It would simply give our district a voice on that board. I also think that joining the board won't do anything to eliminate choices for our district. Rather, it will give us more choices because it will be another board on which we have a choice and a voice.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
So just a thought as a new board member. Before I was on the board, and as a parent who, kind of to Nicole's example, did have to pursue a due process, and I went to the board at that point, they didn't have any say. And so as a parent, I wanted them to have a say. I wanted them to protect my family. I wanted not to have to incur legal costs. I wanted just to get resolution. And they couldn't act on that. And so what I have seen is, since we've made some adjustments to our relationship with TASB, it seems like that is changing. We've done more in the last 6 to 8 months from a special education standpoint, and as well as other areas. So I guess my question, since this is being brought to us to make a decision, how do we believe, Trustee Semler, that being on this board is going to give us a position to really go to Austin and lobby? And I agree with Nicole. I've been in the last 2 sessions myself fighting for things. So you can just get in your car, you can have a voice. And there was a group of moms who did some pretty great things 2 sessions ago that got a really important bill passed for dyslexia. So my question is, how does this benefit us, having a seat at this board? What is it going to do for our students? What is it going to do for our families? How does it change the landscape of how we can help govern and lead the district?
Well, I would ask, what does being on this board do to change the landscape to help you govern this district?
You're answering with a question to my question?
I'm asking you to consider it, because that is what a board position does, is you help govern an organization and provide your insight and your voice to that organization. If you're saying that you've seen a lot of changes in TASB, it means that you didn't like how things were going. So I don't understand why we would leave a seat open and neglect to fill it, because it limits our voice.
I understand that, but yeah. My question to you is, if we fill it, how does it benefit us? I'd like for you to tell me, because again, I don't know. It's a genuine question. How does it benefit us as a district to be on the TASB board? What does that do for our children? What does it do for the families? What does it do for the teachers and our administrators, from your perspective?
I can tell you, one of the things that I enjoy the most and that I gain the most from attending TASB conferences is the camaraderie with other districts. I get to talk with other board members from other districts, and some of them share my views, some of them don't, but everybody is going through similar things, and it really helps to see how their districts have handled it. And I can bring information like that back. I have made friends in other districts, and if something's happening here, I can call them and say, hey, how are you guys handling that? And it helps. So those connections are really valuable to me, and I can bring that information back here. And I would also say that I'm always willing to listen to our board, and if there's something that they are not happy with, I'm happy to voice that on the TASB board position.
I just want to say, you asked why are we on the Conroe ISD school board, and the answer for me is to actively promote Conroe ISD first and foremost, and really only. And it says here in our board book that the TASB directors actively promote TASB's mission and purposes. I think there's a conflict of interest there. What happens when their mission diverges from our mission? Our mission first should be Conroe ISD. So how do you handle potential conflict?
I would handle potential conflict by advocating for our district. I think that would be my position on that board, and I maintain that I would advocate for our district on that board. It's why I think that holding that seat would be valuable.
The second outlet is not, it's not deferring your ability to go speak in Austin. It's adding your voice to another vehicle that's speaking in Austin. So they're going to speak no matter what, but we could have our input in that.
I think that's a great point. Thank you.
And to that point, I wanted maybe to direct this to you, since you drove all the way up here, Tony. My question throughout reviewing this this nomination form that I've seen it now a few years, but I have no problem, and I would never want to limit another trustee's ability to independently seek training or attend conferences. Certainly, that I stand very firm against that. So, in the interest of not doing that, my question to TASB would be, why is it that an independent trustee or an individual trustee can't serve on this without the entire board taking a vote on this? I think the process has maybe murkied the water.
Great question. I can answer that. So TASB represents the 1,024 school districts in the state of Texas. So we represent school districts first. You are the avenue or the voice to provide that back to TASB, back to give us information, whether you're at a conference, you're on the TASB board, or whichever. So this is a way to formally ratify a decision of the local board because you are the one that makes the decision. And so that's why the process is. And the second scenario why we would do that is you could have two trustees that both said, my board has nominated me. That's why we asked for a formal motion in a meeting.
Okay, my advice to TASB would just be that we're a very abnormal board, I suppose, in the state of Texas, and being that we don't actively seek TASB's involvement in our decision making. So in the event when we do have a single trustee or even multiple trustees that might want to participate in this, would be to maybe consider allowing that to occur without the involvement of the entire board, because this does limit, this potentially limits her ability to participate at this extent with TASB. And just for fairness, I think that would be a good consideration for TASB.
Thank you for the point.
Can I ask you a question? Can you, something that, not since you're here and you're up here, something that has always been confusing to me is why the executives of TASB make so gosh darn money. I think the CEO makes about $500,000 a year, and there are multiple executives that make more than the governor of Texas. Can you explain to me why that is?
Good question. So we have a compensation study that's done every year. We're a 501c3, so it's a nonprofit, so we have to have a compensation study to back up any compensation. Many of the business lines that we are in compete against for-profit entities. So, for instance, First Public manages money. They compete against 8 other pools across the state of Texas. All of those are for-profit companies. You also have mutual funds. You have many other avenues that you can invest your funds in. So the employees that we are competing against are against for-profit entities. The head of First Public could make probably double, in my opinion, if he was in a for-profit entity versus a non-profit entity. So really, it's the market setting the compensation for the employees of TASB. And we spend a lot of time and effort reviewing those every year.
Unfortunately, it's taxpayer money, and public education is already struggling here in home base, and so it is just confusing as to why we would want to send that much money to a statewide organization.
Well, and the answer back would be if you hired a private company, you would be paying that same amount of compensation, probably more because they're in a for-profit entity than a nonprofit entity. And so it's really market driven, whether you're buying it through a TASB run program or a for-profit entity. I will tell you, most of the services that TASB provides were there to create efficiency and effectiveness for districts. Most of the services were started because there wasn't a for-profit entity to provide those services. So for instance, unemployment insurance, those things started in the 70s when the state legislature mandated that we have those coverages as school districts. There was nobody to provide them. Well, there happened to be an insurance executive on the board of TASB at the time and said, we can create a risk pool to meet these needs. And so when there is too much competition out there, TASB actually just got out of the business line because there was other entities that could provide those services. And so that's how we select what services we provide, is where can we create the most efficiency for school districts.
So are you saying your nonprofit organization identifies areas where there's no market really, no competition in a market, and then focuses on that market in order to control the market?
No, I wouldn't say that. What I would say is we go to markets or to requirements of a school district that when there is no other provider, we will try to step in if we can do so, and do so without busting the bank. I mean, we won't do something that we can't afford to do. But a lot of those services are started as losses. And then if there's enough, then you get an economy of scale. No different than I'm a CFO over 16 companies. We have businesses that make money. We have businesses that lose money at the start because we're just starting them up. And so when we find a need that a school board like you would come and say, hey, we need this service and we can't find it anywhere else, we will study it and we'll determine whether we can provide that service efficiently to school districts, and if there's a large enough group of school districts that need it. That was why policy services started. That's why the risk pool started, was at the time the risk pool started. There was nobody out there to do it. Policy services is not supposed to be a blanket, except I actually compliment you on some of the comments y'all made. Each district needs to review their policies and make them their own. We do that in Friendswood because much like y'all, we actually, my wife and my sister-in-law both are graduates of McCullough High School. There's a lot of similarities between the Woodlands and Friendswood, for instance. And so we craft things that make sense for Friendswood when we do our policies. But it provides the efficiency of not 1,000 different districts having to go hire attorneys. We have 5 very capable school law attorneys that look at not just education policies, but things like building codes, transportation codes that all affect how you run a district, and try to provide that information back to districts in an efficient manner.
Efficient, but it does tend to control the market is my only point.
So policy services, yes, we are very large in policy services. The risk pool, we're actually just one of many, many competitors. The first public funds, we just had a report on that. We're roughly 14% of the market. There's about 7 or 8 competitors that are all similar sizes. So there's some that over time we provide the lion's share. That's not the purpose of it. I can say I think y'all's district policy services was $10,000. If you went out and created it on your own, it's gonna be pretty expensive. And so that's why it makes sense, is let's pool 5 attorneys across 1,000 districts across the state of Texas.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking that question.
Yeah, not a
providing
problem.
that
Any other
feedback.
questions I can answer?
Oh, how many, was it 1,025 boards across the state of Texas?
There was a consolidation, so I believe it's 1,024 now.
Okay.
Or there's 1,024 that are part of TASB. I think there may be 1,025. There was one district that was consolidated last year.
And then I think there's like 1,068 districts in all of Texas. So most of the districts have membership with TASB, is that right?
All but one district in the state of Texas is a member.
So it would be beneficial, I think, for our board to have a part of that, because we can hear what all these other districts have to say.
And I'll just say from my perspective, this is a very dynamic district, dynamic area of the state of Texas. Having your opinions on how we decide what services we're in, you can do it whether through delegate assembly and as a board member, you actually get two chances to have input on it. Right now, we're in the process. It started at the grassroots level, 20 regions around the state of Texas, consolidating what's the priorities for this next legislative session. That does not prevent you, I agree. We need actually more school board members driving to Austin. I did it 6 times. I testified for an hour and a half at 3 in the morning. I appreciate y'all actually were very, very effective. And we heard that, and I compliment your board. You're going to now go through what I went through. I used to have the chair of the Senate Education Committee in Friendswood, Larry Taylor. When he chose not to run, it became a little bit harder because I just couldn't drive right down the street. But that is a valuable thing. We need more districts doing that. Where I think TASB can add value is we tracked 4,000 bills last session that affected all areas of operation. And providing those summaries back, the board is one of the first groups that hears those things. I think that's a valuable resource as well. Thank you all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for driving out here. I just want to make a comment about the networking with other school board members. At any time, I can look on a district's website and I can find those school board members and I can reach out to them. And I actually have done that. When we were crafting EHBAG, I had heard of another board that had something similar and I reached out to them. So I can network with school board members at any time. I don't need to join a statewide organization to be able to do that.
But we're not joining, we're not talking about joining, we're just talking about a board position. It won't cost.
Correct, sorry. I stand corrected. You're absolutely right. My wording was incorrect.
It won't cost the district anything for me to do this at all. I'm just offering my time to go be part of this board so I can advocate for us.
I respectfully disagree, but thank you, Trustee Semler.
Okay, I've waited to just share. I think everyone's had an opportunity and I'd like to move forward. This board has been consistent and public about concerns with TASB, their training model, their policy positions, and their fundamental question of whether taxpayer dollars should continue to fund an organization that doesn't align with the majority values of our constituents. It's this position of the people that we represent. An official nomination to the TASB board is an endorsement by our board to support TASB and their initiatives. And district resources will not be necessarily used. However, that endorsement is a major investment and resource. I'm not able to support that. That said, I do believe that Trustee Semler should be able to serve if she wants to serve on a board, but we should, as a board, not have to be forced into endorsing it by a vote. She should be able to, and if you can pursue this without a board approval or vote, I welcome you doing that. I do believe you have good opportunity to speak to people. You are very good at that, and you should be able to do that in your independent role. And on your own time, and without it being a board endorsement, and without interfering with the duties here and responsibilities here, or being a conflict of different priorities. If our board elects certain priorities as our legislative priorities, but TASB doesn't, and they are in opposition of it, we sending a board member then shows conflict there. I do believe it's your absolute right and ability to do so. I find it difficult that there's not a path forward for you without a board vote. Other trustees, including myself, have advocated in Austin on our own time and our own dime while keeping our board obligations front and center. This would be no different, and I think you should have that right, but they are forcing a board vote on it. So we have a motion on the table. There's been a second. There's been discussion. Seeing no opposition to a vote being called, are we ready to vote? Okay. Trustee Horton's nomination of Trustee Semler as the delegate and a board member. Do I have that correct? Would you reread it, please, just for the record?
Yes. I move to nominate trustee Melissa Simler for the TASB Board of Directors for Region 6 and delegate to the TASB 2026 Assembly.
Okay, all those in favor show by the uplift of hands. All opposed? The motion fails 2-5.
I just want to add, I really hope there could be a path forward on the TASB end to get this done for Trustee Simler. I think she would bring an important voice to the board, but
That was the path forward, though y'all voted against it.
like I said.
All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda. We will address item B, under administration, discussion and possible action regarding updates to cell phone policy implementation. Dr. Merle? Oh, it's going to be there you go, Dr. Landry.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Vinson. Tonight, we have information on the implementation of the cell phone policy for CISD for the 25-26 school year. So at this point in time, this is just the first year of implementation, so it's a gathering of data. The data does not support conclusions at this time, but there are some interesting things that we would like to point out. So just raw numbers, you can see that there were total 12,880 total cell phone referrals district-wide. That accounts for 46.6% of all high school referrals. When you take tardies out, about half of the referrals written at the high school level in our entire district were cell phone related. It encompassed about 27% of high school students had at least one infraction, and there were 6,587 unique students disciplined as a result of the implementation of the policy. So you can see that we are implementing the policy as it is written with fidelity in compliance with state law. The high school cell phone referrals by campus, you can see there that we have a smattering of referrals across all of our high schools. So all high schools are implementing the policy with documented referrals in place. So this is through the marking periods, first marking period, second, third, and fourth. You can see how the trend went there with a decline towards the end of the school year. Again, no conclusions can be drawn there, but we hope that that is a trend that we will continue to see as the thought process and the mentality of that these are not allowed in school, not to be used in school, that we can see that.
Dr. Landry, I'm sorry, could you go back a couple slides? I see Caney Creek and Conroe are outliers here. I'd like to understand better how this is being implemented across the high schools and what Caney Creek and Conroe can do to get more in line with where the other high schools are.
Trustee Dawson, can he get through the presentation and then come back to that? We can come back to that slide, but I'd just like to get the information and then come back to it with questions if possible, unless you want to address them in between.
At your discretion. I mean, I can do it either way.
There's not that many slides.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. So we are, in fact, we're going to take this data and we're going to be presenting it to all of our principals through the assistant superintendents with frank, honest discussion about how it went, year one of the implementation, what worked, what didn't work, and whether or not we have a consistent and strenuous enough consequence plan, and that it does have a steady progression so that when incident number 1 happens, you have a level of consequence, and when you have incident number 9 in recurring behavior, that we are at a different level of discipline, so that the students know that we are in fact taking it seriously, and that this is important to us because it's state law, and we're going to be in full compliance of it. So we will drill down into this data with the principals and talk to them about their individual processes on campus to make sure that everybody is comfortable, that we are diligently applying our policy in compliance with state law, and that hopefully we will see a decline. Obviously our campuses are unique, and they have unique demographics and mentalities to them. So it's going to take, I think, a concerted effort on everyone's part to invest in it, but it's an investment we're willing to make.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the numbers for our junior highs, you can see the numbers per individual campus. And then you can see the trend and the referrals actually goes up. And again, speculatively, we can say, you know, not all junior high students have a cell phone. And so perhaps as they get them for Christmas, you can see the trend and they bring them to school and then they get caught. And so the trend continued to go up throughout the school year, but at a smaller rate than the high schools. But we do see an upward trend in behaviors that we will be addressing as well. So this is you know, when you look at the numbers, the majority, you can see the first offense. We got 3,384 first offenses, and then you can see all the way down, you know, the repeat offenders. So 1,200 students were caught 2 times, 600 3 times. You can see the significant decrease in the numbers. They get caught once, and then the behavior then is extinguished, and you don't see it again. We do have some outliers. That's 68 students who've been caught 9+ times. You know, those individual students will deal with on an individual basis. But you can see our students, when they're presented with the policy, they get caught. The recurrence of the behavior is not indicated here.
They're paying that's 9 times getting nabbed and paying the fee, man. That's
What, there's a fee?
Yeah.
What
So-
are they paying?
So do we have any schools that pay? We're not paying a fee, but the parents do have to come up. So after the first time, we will return it to them. But then subsequent behaviors, the parents then have to come up to school and get it back.
Working.
I mean, and so we're going to tighten it up and make sure that everyone knows through our actions that we are in fact very serious about our policy. We do have the ability to charge a fee by state law, but we have not done so at this time. So when you look at the junior highs and their recurrence of behaviors, it's even more. So when the junior highs, they bring it, maybe it's a status symbol, hey, look, I got a phone, and then they get caught with it, and they're like, oh, geez, they're really serious about this. And then from that point on, you don't see as many, and you only see a recurrence of 7, and it's only 2 students district-wide. So 74% of cited students only had one instance. And that's a good number to see. We're not seeing as many reoffenders. High school full data. So, you know, there's a lot of numbers here, and you guys can look at them. I'm not going to read all the numbers. What I will point to is the unique students, right? So the number of individual students who were cited. And when you look, you know, by campus at the numbers of percentage of students in their population that were cited, you can see that we at the highest level. You know, there are a few outliers, but about 27% of our students, high school students, were cited, and so it's not a large number, but it's larger than we'd like, and we hopefully will see a decline in that going forward. And at junior high, we see an even smaller number with only an average of 4.5% of our students cited. And you can see you know, at the individual campuses, most of them are below 5% as a campus. You know, a couple of outliers there above, but all below 10%. So our junior high students they do seem to be rule followers. The hope is, though, that this becomes part of the mentality. And, you know, the high school students, for pretty much their entire school career, have had no boundaries on this behavior at all. And then all of a sudden now they do. So we're hoping that as the students matriculate up to us with the mentality that these phones are not allowed on campus, that we'll see these numbers trend in a downward fashion. Okay. So again, not conclusions, but just some of the things some takeaways. You know, the 12,000 phone referrals, 46% of all high school, really it's half. And when you think about half of the referrals that are sent to the office are about cell phones, that's indicative of 2 things. Number one, our teachers and our administrators are adhering and they're applying the policy. And 2, if that's you know, the worst our kids are doing, I think that speaks highly for our students if that's half of the infractions. Most of the students, 56% of the cited high school students, are one-time offenders, and 75% of the junior highs are just one-time offenders. So we are seeing fewer of the repeat offenders. And then we will address that small group of students at 9+ violations. You know, at some point, hopefully we'll get through to them and they'll figure out that we're serious about it. And then high school referrals fell to 22% after period 3 in the high school and the junior high. It did climb, so we'll make a push at midterm to make sure that if you did as a 7th grader, you got that first cell phone at Christmas, please leave it at home and don't bring it to school, because the policy does apply to you even though it is your first phone.
Well, and, you know, thank you for this presentation. I know
Yes,
we've kind of focused on the negative side of it, right? Like infractions, but I think talking about why this state law is in place, right? Why we have this policy, and I think it's a great, I mean, I know the students probably don't agree with me, but it's cut down on distractions, and it's helped them to focus on their academics, the reason they're in school. And I would love to hear from, you know, if there's principals, I see Ms. Ardoin, and if you have any, or, you know, our assistant superintendents, just anecdotal, you know, how have things improved as a culture in these schools over the last year? Have they? Let's be honest. He's coming up.
So I think talking to our principals, that the removal of technology has really helped the focus in the classroom and production, but they're finding that more conversations are happening, that they thought they would miss the phones a lot more than they did. And so as they got used to it, you saw a lot more positive results with them cooperating, first of all, but second of all, not needing that technology at their fingertips and realizing that some of it is an issue just within their own self.
There's been a bit of a
been very
rebirth with
productive.
hacky sacks, right? You know,
Right.
kids are finding other ways.
Yeah, they're finding other ways to do things and utilize things. And it's caused, and I know I've heard from different schools that they have board games and stuff that they put out there during lunch or before school, since they can't be on their phones, and they're having to have the old-fashioned games and communicating and talking with each other. So it's having a lot of positive results. Not making them as dependent on the technology as they think they need to be.
Well, removing the technology out of their hands forces them to engage in other communication. And that is where our business world has said we are struggling. These kids cannot communicate. These graduates cannot communicate. They don't know how to have conflict resolution. They don't know how to carry on a conversation, how to look someone in the eye when they're talking to someone. There's just so much that comes from it, and they have no filter when they do, because they've been able to say whatever they've wanted on a screen at a distance, and now they're learning they can't talk the same way to people. There's just so many different things that come from it, and I hope that that's one area that by state mandates we're decreasing screen use. But I know that our trustees have also been pushing for less screen use of other methods as well in our classrooms.
I'm curious about, I don't think you said you have the data yet, on the 22% reduction in the high schools. I'm curious to see what happened, what was implemented so that we would see it. I mean, this is a pretty significant drop.
Right, and like I said, it's difficult to draw conclusions based on, you know, a baseline year basically of data. So I'm interested to see, because you can speculate, several different things happen there, whether it was the students, whether it was the staff, whether it was, you know, what was the driving factor that forced that number down quite significantly at the high schools, whereas the junior highs continued to trend up.
Do you think they just stopped writing referrals? I was wondering that.
I don't know, and I would not want to disparage our staff, because I know they work very hard. But you know, the spring is in the high school level. It's testing. So you know, the normal calendar routine changes, particularly in the fourth 9 weeks. And they are spending a lot more time in testing sessions where the phones are in backpacks, and the backpacks are in the front of the room. So it could simply be a dynamic of that they just simply didn't have access to it.
And I don't want to disparage them. I know how hard it is, you know, and I kudos to all of them for how much they've done this year to make sure that the kids have consistently put those away. And personally speaking, my family's appreciative. I've seen a difference with my own kids at home.
They have worked very, very hard, and we are proud of them.
Sounds like we need to do a post-Christmas campaign, communication
Well,
campaign.
We've talked about that, particularly
To our
at the junior high,
families.
just make sure that they're aware that the policy is still in place, even though you just have a new president.
Yeah, I wanted to applaud our admin and our teachers as well. I know one of the trustees mentioned that there were a lot of referrals at, I think, Caney Creek and Conroe High School, but that's great. You know, that means they're
It
getting
demonstrates that
nothing.
they are, in fact,
Consequences.
applying the policy as intended with
Yeah.
diligence and working very, very hard at it, and they're not backing off. I mean, they're
Yeah,
gonna hold the kids accountable.
I think that's great
As they
news,
should.
and yeah, more referrals, more monitoring. So,
Yes.
and it's a lot of work, so we appreciate that.
Dr. Laney, I have a procedural question as it relates to special education. When it's documented on a student's IEP that they need some type of technology like headphones or what have you, is there a district-wide procedure that all campuses follow so that staff knows that that student has that for a reason? And I am asking because I have been contacted by a family that struggled with that. And so I'm just curious if there is a district-wide policy on that and how that's being handled.
You know, we do have, I didn't say policy, but there is a communication process involved when a student is accommodated in that fashion or they have access to a device. The communication does go out, but it is very difficult, particularly on the large campuses. So you have, you know, a ninth grade student who on a campus of 3,600 have a staff of almost 300 to make sure that that particular teacher who encounters that student with a device puts the two together, because they might not in any other instance in the day know who that student is or know that the student that they saw the email from has in fact an accommodation. So we do ask the faculty to approach the students with respect, and if a version of that is given, that look, I'm allowed to have this and here's why, that the teacher then refers that to the assistant principal or you know, whomever. And
But
then,
what if the student is not, does not communicate exactly the way a typical student would communicate? Is there not a way to perhaps document it on an ID? Or I don't know if this is something that has been discussed at all.
we haven't discussed it because, yes, please.
It's in our local policy, FNCE, there's exceptions. If it's in an ARD, if it's
Yeah, but
documented and
but
a
it's not
504
happening. But
Yeah.
that- but
Well,
that's what
I'm
we're
just
saying.
saying, there is a policy that specifically
It's
talks
very
to this.
difficult to
Sorry,
to
I
put a-
probably used the wrong word. I meant procedure. Is there a procedure
One of the things
in
that is,
place?
yeah,
that-
actually, here's the thing.
I
you
mean,
don't-
they're legally required. I understand that.
Right, right.
I understand that. What I'm saying is they're not being identified possibly.
There's a provision in it, like, for example, you know I was walking through Conroe High the other day, and a kid had a different set headphones on because of the noise cancellation. So they gave him colored, you know, certain colors that they knew so they could identify that kid had that, so that they were okay to wear those, whatever it was going to be. So there were certain provisions they were saying to make sure that, you know, because you know you're walking by, you don't know where that kid is, if they have headphones or not. So, and if they're nonverbal, especially, that's really going to feel.
I guess what I'm asking though is, does every campus function
No,
exactly the same?
that's
Because some campuses may do that well and other campuses may
And
not
that's-
do that well.
It's a great point. We've talked about this before. One of the things we're going to do on July 23rd is go through our discipline matrix, and we're going to standardize many of those kind of things to not only talk about punishment for the individual the situation, but also calibrate, you know, what those particular experiences. Because, you know, we hire a lot of new assistant principals, and they're coming in. How do I discipline? What do I do with discipline? And those kind of things. So calibrating those things with common expectations and training will be amazing.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it falls within, in my opinion, I'm not sure if it falls within disciplinary, but I mean, to what Trustee May is saying, procedurally, across the district, we should have a standard for how these children that need this, you know, whether it be their cell phone, headphones, you know, if it is indicated in their IEP, we know, of course, that federal law trumps state law. And so we need to make sure that it is standard, because there are kids who, although it is in policy, in the moment, as, you know, the teacher may not, to your point, they're not going to know everybody. So we have to help them
No, that's the whole point of what
make
we're
it
trying to do.
easier so they can identify those kids.
And you know, there's a fine line there, because, you know, if you put the colored dot on the ID badge and the students know that the red dot means something special,
Yeah.
then you've now, you're in violation. You can't identify a student
Yeah.
that way. So it is a fine line. It is very difficult to try to make sure, especially on the very large campuses. The smaller the campus, and everybody knows who that student is, and they understand that they have this. But it is a very real thing on the large campuses to keep track of.
I know
all
that
those.
Grand Oaks,
Yep.
they did something very creative. I thought it was great, so that might be a great place to start.
Yep.
But just something to kind of, so everybody's on the same page. Because I think at the end of the day, to Trustee May's point, the child may not be able to say it, but we need to provide our teachers a way to make it easier for them. Because I know they're not trying to make it difficult.
Nope.
They just they can't know everybody.
Right, and the teachers are trying to do what they've been asked to do.
Exactly.
And that's why I say, if they approach with respect, and then they get some pushback in whatever form that they are asked, then to just take that to administration, who should be in the know, and then we can work it out from there, and then the teacher has done their duty, and the students' rights are protected, and we can work it out from that point.
Dr. Merle, or Landry, you might know this too, but what's the total number of high school students? Approximately, rounded. My point, let me just save you then.
20? 20,000, 20, yeah, 22,
Okay,
24,000.
20,000, let's just say 20,000. And we have 68 students district-wide with multiple offenses.
With 9 or more, yes.
9 or more, with 9 or more. I'm just going to state, while I'm all for more deterrence of it, I'm guessing that 68 students with more than 9 or more violations isn't as bad as it.
They are definitely the outliers. We
I don't
have
think
great
we're going
students.
to, I don't think we're
have
going to
good
change
students.
their behavioral practices, is my point.
We're going to try.
No, we can definitely try to be better
Yes.
because that's, we are competitive in that
But
regard.
the majority of our students are fantastic.
I'm very happy that the implementation and the work towards it and the staff that has had to be the ones behind the enforcement of it have actually seen the benefits of it. That's the good thing, and that they were pleasantly surprised it wasn't as big a pushback, so.
Correct.
Dr. Landry, could you go back to I think it was the 5th slide? Actually, go to the 3rd.
That one?
One more, back one more. Okay, one. Is this the beginning?
That's
Okay.
it.
Keep going, keep going. One more. Keep going, right there. Unique students, line 3 in this chart, or table. What is that?
That's an individual student. So if you look at, the first one there, Caney Creek High School, there's 1,179 individual students who received a referral.
2,979 referrals was done by 1,179 students. So that's 250.
Yes, some kids got.
Gotcha,
Right.
okay.
So that includes the 9 or more, so the unique students, 1,179.
Got it. Okay, and the next slide, it appeared again. I just want to make sure I'm clear on the numbers.
Oh.
Okay, so just averaged in. Okay. 2 suggestions, just that it seems like, and you can correct me if this is wrong, that we're just analyzing the data for the first time after this first year of implementation. Is that right?
We looked at them at midterm to
Okay.
see where we were, and then we're looking at them now. But we've been tracking throughout the whole year to see how the implementation has been going and what changes, if any, needed to be made, and this is where we find ourselves.
Okay, so was it implementation or the punishment, was there anything changed at midterm based on
we did
what
not.
the numbers were?
We did not make any changes to any of the consequence, ladders or any of those things.
Do you still feel strong, confident in the current disciplinary actions that are in place?
That's one of the things we're going to talk about this summer.
Okay.
We're going to I don't know, we're going to formalize that a little bit more, and make it a little more graduated, so that when you are on your 9th time in infraction, that you are not receiving the same consequence you did on the first time. That it's going to be at a different level.
Okay, and I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, and then just maybe get an update after y'all do go through the process this summer when you meet with the principals, and let us know what those changes might be.
Absolutely.
Just so
Be
we
happy
know what
to.
to expect.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
President Odenwiller, I'm sorry if I missed it, but is there an action that the discussion's related to, or are these just questions about the presentation?
It did say take possible action, but I don't think anyone has made a motion or has a motion.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure I missed it.
No, ma'am. Okay, have we concluded discussion on this? Are y'all good?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Landry. All right. Trustees, the next item up is to consider and approve the Conroe ISD Education Foundation resolution. Dr. Vinson, you have requested that, or do you have something to share on this, or do you just want me to call for the tabling?
One of the things that you had mentioned is that this is not a necessity in terms of passing of the resolution, and what we had discussed is the possibility of actually working through it and continuing our pathway towards getting the MOU with to start and to get our education foundation moving with the current education foundation. So because we think that we can just move forward in doing those kind of things, and we're still collecting data, we're still getting information, and so Andrew, is there any other information that you would have with all that? Because that's where we are.
All right, so do I have a motion to table the item as requested?
I move to table the resolution.
All right. Is there any other discussion regarding the tabling? All right, all in favor of tabling the item, please show by the uplift of hands. The motion carries 7-0.
Point of order for Ms. Blue. I also have a second motion, just one on the record. Is now the appropriate time? Okay. Also move to direct the superintendent to create a plan for a standalone Conroe ISD Education Foundation and bring it back to the board on July 21st, 2026 for adoption.
Is there a second? I'll second. I'm sorry, what?
I move to direct the superintendent to create a plan for a standalone Conroe ISD Education Foundation and bring that plan back to the board on July 21st, 2026 for adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there discussion regarding this?
Could we get some more details on what that entails? And
yes, of course. So I brought this up to Trustee Odenwiller, and we discussed this, and then in conversations back and forth with Dr. Vinson and in communication with Ms. Audwan, and previous month communicated with Andrew, just in the process of what we asked to be done with this foundation and what was explained to us more than 6 months ago, back in December it was first brought to us, I believe, that we would be assuming responsibility for this foundation. As it stands now, we're now in the month of June, and no MOU is in place to my understanding. We haven't finalized any plans, and we're now going into a new school year in less than 2 months, and just want to have this buttoned up by the end of the summer if possible. So if it takes us creating a standalone foundation that we create as a district and then negotiate moving from there, I think that would be a better starting point considering all things.
And for the record, the current Conroe ISD Foundation has done great work, and we're not looking to interrupt anything with that. We're just trying to be efficient and get this moving forward. We want to continue we're committed to ensuring the same named scholarships as we continue working through the MOU, the grants, the programs, the initiatives built through the Conroe Education Foundation. without interruption. We just feel that right now this would allow our director of the foundation to be able to get going and moving, and then we continue working through the MOU with the current foundation and see about what we can do about continuing their legacy and their purpose. I know we share the same values as far as making sure that everything that we do, we have a shared mission to enrich our educational experiences and in the classroom every day. And so I just want to get this moving so that we can start acting.
In the event that they do not pass the Education Foundation along to the district, are we just completely starting up like our own foundation? It just sounds like a lot of work to do.
I think that could be worked out in the details. That's why I'm making the motion to direct the superintendent to...
Just to create a plan. That's
create a plan and bring it back to us because we're not getting the movement.
The email we got said legal counsel determined that a resolution is not necessary, instead to move forward and work collaboratively with the current foundation to work towards an MOU. So I'm confused. Why do we not have a memorandum of understanding? What's going on with that?
Well, there's been several factors. One of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to get financials and we wanted to get all that stuff organized. And then with regard to, do you want to address any of these things? Because that's been the main thing is that we were trying to get our financials through, we're trying to get all that kind of stuff to see where the books were and all that information. So we have those notes. When the transfers there, we knew where we were and what we were doing. And so Andrew can probably answer any other questions.
Part of the problem with creating any kind of legal document with the current Education Foundation is it continues on with the new Education Foundation Board. So you're making a resolution which just carries on to the next one, which we can move forward at this point and then come up with the MOU or the
final details.
Agreement. Yes.
So what's the benefit of starting another foundation? It's just so we can move forward faster? Is that what you're saying the benefit is?
I can speak to that. Personally, I'm looking at it, it's just an alternative to moving forward. That way, if something gets hung up in the details, we're not another month behind on getting this, assuming the role of responsibility for our Education Foundation.
I will say this as well, that we do now have their financials and we're working through those kind of things. And it's never been anything but, we've not had a day's worth of issue or problem. It's just, trustee done get it, lights fired for us to kind of get done what we're going to get done, and we'll work tomorrow to start working through that. So, I would love to get it closed up. I know that Lindsay and everybody else would like to get that done too. So it would be.
I think we've been talking about a resolution for 2 months now.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure why this is stalling out the way that it is.
The thing is, but tomorrow morning we're.
So what happens with so we open a new foundation and then they transfer the assets from the old foundation to the new one, or we just start over?
That's if you're starting a brand new one, you wouldn't necessarily have that agreement.
And what happens to the old one? We're just going to walk away from that?
No, that we're still in communication. We would still be working towards an agreement and everything. It's just more of a streamlined process and letting us start working as an education foundation. When I say we, I mean in general, a new board working towards our education foundation while we work out the details of what the MOU would state. And right now, we're just in a holding pattern. We have Ms. Ardoin here ready to get going and moving, but because nothing is finalized, we can't do anything. So
can we get the MOU by next month?
That's going to be the goal.
But if we don't,
this is an alternative.
We're going to get 2 of them done. So that's the goal, right? Because this is what we have. Is if y'all choose, we'll be pursuing one and then the other.
I just feel this is more efficient and effective at the moment to keep us moving. So it's not that we're stopping any consideration. It's not that we're not in agreement with them. It's just that this lets us get moving. So
can I ask, sorry to interrupt, can I ask when y'all decided to start moving this way? Like I just feel
there hasn't been any, she just made a motion.
No,
nobody knew.
This is I'm proposing an alternative in the event that the MOU can't be executed in the next 2-3 weeks and something brought to us, an understanding brought to us by the next meeting, so that we could just vote to move forward without this resolution with an MOU in place, knowing the stipulations of how we're going to move forward, so we can, as a board, vote on that and then get things going, because Lindsay's sitting idle while we wait.
Is it problematic for the district to start and manage our own foundation without, like, is there any issue with overlap there?
Dr. Vinson can speak to that.
Yeah, I've actually been, I've ran, organized and started up, a couple of these situations, or resurrected them as they were. And, everything has its issues, but can you do it? Absolutely. The thing is that, my job is to try to get motivated to get the other one done. And so, I talked to Nelda today. I know that I'll talk to her tomorrow, maybe even tonight. And so to get plans to get moving. And I'll have really concrete answers for you, hopefully by Friday, right? So, well, I'm actually leaving on Wednesday for another thing, but yeah.
It also lets, at the time when we entered into this discussion, they were ready to hand it over, and to none of the trustees were looking to continue serving.
Right.
They were ready to move on, and this just makes it even that much easier to start a clean slate and move forward. And I mean, we share the same values. I'm sure that the question about assets would then, it'll get worked out in an MOU.
I'd prefer we wait until we get more details from them, and then if it's still stalling out, then I would consider creating a new one. I just think there's a lot of legal issues that could arise from doing this.
Ms. Ballou, could you speak to that? Is there a lot of legal that would cause problems with this or be an issue? Is it something difficult to set up or challenging?
Well, it's relatively simple. I don't think your mic's
on. I think right now what's being discussed is a plan, and so I think that the superintendent, without knowing what the plan's going to be, it's very difficult to know, what all the legal issues. But the motion is to ask your superintendent to develop a plan or an option for you if the district wants to start its own foundation. Obviously, starting a foundation requires things like signing up with the Secretary of State, figuring out a name, figuring out an MOU between your foundation and your district if you're going to try to share some resources or responsibilities. So all those things can take quite a bit of work. But this would be getting that planning process started.
So we're not necessarily going to save time. We're adding a lot more steps, potentially. I'm in favor of waiting, but that's just me. So do we want to vote?
All the discussion, is that it? Okay.
I want to add to the discussion that this is an alternative. The goal is still that Dr. Vinson can move forward with the existing foundation, get an MOU. The details that are in the MOU are going to determine how the new board for this foundation moving forward will be appointed. I think there was I know there were misunderstandings about that initially communicated to us early on in this process. At the point where we are now, that those details are what this forces to be panned out, because if we wait, or if we get to this table again in July and we don't have an MOU in place, then we have the alternative foundation ready to go, where we can decide on the
or decide between the two
how to move forward in that direction. It's just so that we're not in a holding pattern going into a new school year and we're not sitting here in September deciding.
I have a question. So to Trustee Dawson's point, I kind of thinking we should wait, but I want to be sure I'm clear that the motion is to have an alternative come July.
A plan for a standalone.
But it still wouldn't be solidified in July. We would just have a plan to come up with our own foundation. So needless to say, we still may not have something come
No, we would definitely have something moving forward come next month, whether it be the existing foundation or if it's moving forward with our new Conroe ISD foundation, whichever happens.
My goal is that we just can get moving, supporting our classrooms and our student the experiences, the things that we want to do, and continuing to raise funds. One of the things with the current CEF is that they said we're at our limits, and there's so many ideas that Ms. Ardawan and her team have, that they want to act on and start doing and plan and raise funds and implement getting money into the schools and that type of thing that we're holding at the moment.
I understand that. Are we adding extra steps? As Trustee Dawson said it, if we want to get those things done, I think we need to make sure that we do them in the best way possible and the quickest way possible. I don't know if this is it.
Last month, I pushed to table this resolution. It got brought back to our agenda for a second time. I want to avoid that moving forward.
Amen.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to direct the superintendent?
I'll read it
Okay,
again.
thank you.
I move to direct the superintendent to create a plan for a standalone Conroe ISD Education Foundation and bring it back to the board on July 21st, 2026.
Can I make an amendment to that? Can we add if an MOU was not put in place
Certainly.
by next month?
In the event of no MOU with existing foundation, yeah.
But are we asking him to get one ready for July? Because it seems like if the MOU is not in place, we wouldn't know until that board meeting.
Well, the hope is that this expedites the existing foundation to agree to an MOU.
But with that motion, you're saying he needs to bring something for July.
That he has a
If the MOU is in
plan.
place in July,
Right.
so
A plan for
So
a
could we put
standalone.
it, so kind of to Trustee Dawson's amendment, I amend the amendment, I'm playing. Could we,
Just-
could
real
we
quick,
specify
can we
a
little
date?
messy
Get
at
a
the moment.
second, yeah, I don't want it to get,
Yes.
so can we get a second on her amendment?
Say it again.
And then open it up for discussion and vote on it?
You've asked to make an amendment. Is there a second on her amendment?
Say the amendment again.
That we would have an alternative if there's not an MOU drafted by July, our next board meeting, July 21st, is that one?
Mm-hmm.
I'll second that.
And now we can have.
Now discussion.
Okay, well, I think we already had discussion.
Well,
Do we have any other discussion on that amendment?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So, maybe we can timestamp it, like an actual date. By said date, this amendment, if we don't have it, then put the plan into place. Because what I don't want is for you, Dr. Vincent, and the team to be starting something and then we get what we need and then it's time wasted, time and effort wasted. So
Any other discussion on that?
Can I ask for a legal clarification, just because I want to make sure the superintendent has really clear direction? When you say MOU, you mean an MOU between the existing foundation and the district?
Yeah, because if it
And
was gonna
that's
be a
clear
brand
to
new-
everybody that, so the idea is, your amendment is saying that if there's not an MOU signed between the existing foundation and the superintendent by by your next meeting, July 22nd, that the superintendent will then, on that agenda, present an alternative foundation, a standalone foundation.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure so that he's clear on what to do. Thank you.
Okay, was there any other discussion regarding that amendment to the motion? Because we have to vote on that amendment now. So we have to vote on her amendment that in the event that there's not.
Mrs. Ardoin, do you
changed.
have something?
Hold on, let's get this motion taken care of first. Okay, we have to vote on this.
To direct the superintendent to create a plan for a standalone Conroe ISD Education Foundation and bring it back to the board on July 21st, 2026, in the event of no MOU with the existing foundation.
Actually, we only needed a second on it. Do we? Now we got to vote on, that's what I thought. Okay, so.
Signed MOU.
In the event
We
of
think
no
he
signed
signed it.
MOU.
Well, yes.
So we can't put the word signed in there.
Strike signed.
All right. All those in favor of accepting this amendment, show by the uplift of hands. Okay, all opposed? Okay, the motion carries 6-2 for that amendment. 5-2, excuse me. I could only see one and I read 6. Ms. Ardoin, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to kind of clarify, a lot of this came up today, so it was news to myself as well. I think the plan is and will always be that we continue the work. I'm going to piggyback off what President Oldweller said. the incredible work that the current CISD Education Foundation has already done. They've already laid the foundation. They already have the assets. They already have the donors. They have everything done. The goal is and will always be to continue that work that they've already done. The hope is that Dr. Vincent and myself will be able to finalize all of that ASAP, because we are ready to get going and we're ready to work. I think that what Trustee Dungan was trying to propose would be a last resort opportunity. Am I correct in saying that?
It's particularly in the absence of this resolution. If we can get everything in place, that the financials that we need, the documentation I emailed you about, if we can get
Yes.
all of that documentation and to an agreement, an understanding, an MOU, then that's what's missing. Aside from a resolution or any, public pronouncement, is we need an MOU ready to go for us to discuss next month. And if that, in the absence of that, we have an alternative so that we can keep moving forward.
And I want you to know that regardless of whether or not we have the MOU or not, I have been working behind the scenes, developing applications for board members, already creating lists for recruitment, coming up with ideas for fundraising, coming up with plans for of special events next year. That stuff is still happening, whether or not, it's mine, it's ours, it's our district. So the work is still being done. We just have to get this piece in place. But I just wanted to clarify, because I saw your look on your faces and there was a lot of questions. There were with me today as well. But everything will be okay. And the goal is that we're going to continue to work, raise the money and for our students and our staff and our schools, and it's going to be amazing.
Yes.
Well, and again, we've been working on this for months.
I know.
So I think,
Over half a year.
we've done a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yes.
So I'm hopeful that an MOU can be done in the next couple weeks.
That's the goal.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
We have a motion on the table. Are we ready to vote on it?
We already did.
No, now to vote the directive. We voted on the amendment. Now we have to vote to.
Now you have an amended motion on the table, so
Yes.
you can reread
Yes.
it if you want to. Yeah.
We have to now vote on it.
Yep.
All right. So we have an amended motion on the table, and we need a vote to direct the superintendent. So in the event that we don't have an MOU. So all in favor, show by the uplift of hands. Okay, all opposed? And the motion carries 6-1. Think you through that one.
All right.
All right, next item. Who's covering Parent Square? Or Andrew Stewart is, okay. Trustees, the next item up is the Parent Square Communication Platform. And we welcome Mr. Stewart again.
Good evening, President Odenweller, members of the board, and Dr. Vincent. Tonight, I want to provide you with an update on our teacher-to-parent communication tool, Rooms, and the challenges we experienced during the 25-26 school year, and a possible option for a feeder pilot during the upcoming school year. So during the 25-26 school year, we encountered several challenges with Apogee Rooms. This includes parent engagement remained low. We had about 50% of parents download the app and only 30% parents actively using the app. And this app was required to receive teacher communication. Teachers and parents were also managing communication across multiple systems. Rather than simplifying communication, Rooms added another app for families to download and monitor. Parents with multiple children, teachers, and coaches often received messages throughout the day, leading to communication fatigue. So if you have a child at elementary level with a teacher, a student at the high school with coaches and 7 teachers, you're receiving messages all day long. And then finally, Rooms provided limited oversight and safeguards for staff to student and staff to parent communication. So with that in mind, following feedback from our communications audit and conversations with other districts who use Parent Square, administration is recommending a feeder pilot of Parent Square for the 26-27 school year. And Parent Square brings district and campus communication, teacher messaging, newsletters, calendars, forms, volunteer signups, and emergency notifications together into one platform. Parent Square communicates through text, email, phone calls, and the mobile app. And most importantly, parents do not have to download the app to receive messages from their child's teacher. Parent Square automatically translates messages into more than 190 languages and translates parent responses back into English for the teachers. Parents may choose to receive non-urgent communication in a daily digest, reducing message fatigue. So it's placing all their messages into one email, or however they choose. And families can reply by text, email, or through the app and choose the communication method that works best for them. Parent Square also offers message previews, scheduled communications, conference scheduling, read receipts, delivery tracking, file attachments, and parent engagement analytics. And a very important point, Parent Square enhances communication oversight and student safety. Keyword monitoring allows concerning messages to be flagged for review. Message history supports accountability, and AI moderation helps prevent inappropriate content from being shared in the first place. Administration recommends beginning with a single feeder pilot of Parent Square during the 26-27 school year. This pilot will allow us to evaluate Parent Square in a real-world setting while providing focused training and support to a smaller group of employees. Other campuses will have the opportunity to observe the platform in action and learn from implementation. And Parent Square has offered Conroe ISD a one-year pilot for up to 10 campuses for only the onboarding fee, which we will not have to pay if we adopt it district-wide in the future. After reviewing several options, we believe the Grand Oaks feeder provides the appropriate size and structure for a successful pilot and will allow us to evaluate the platform before considering a district-wide deployment. Any questions?
Good question. I'm on page 260. It says that the trial would be $129,000, but we currently were paying $301,000 for what we're doing currently. District-wide adoption would be $305,000. It looks to me we would be adding that on top of that 305.
So
129.
So if you can look at this slide, it has the Apogee alerts, which we would have to keep, which is $103,950, and this is how the district communicates to, and all the other feeders would communicate to their families for emergency messages and sending out their notifications. So that has to stay no matter what.
But if we did district-wide adoption, it looks like it would be a significant savings to do it all at once. Was that something you talked to your principal about? Was there a lot of feedback on that? I think you guys were bringing that to the meeting.
We had our principal advisory, and everybody was on board of doing it, but there was we didn't ask for a vote for commitment, but, everybody was really excited about the opportunity to do it because of, the usefulness of rooms and this being so much better. Plus, this was actually recommended by our communications audit.
Well, it looks like we could just save substantially if we just did it all at once, right?
So if we do it all at once, this is the option for the trial cost. You can see that onboarding fee is $22,000. And I also added SMORE in there because, and that's the newsletter piece. So if we were to do a district-wide, that would go to that middle column, which is $305,000. So it's slightly higher than what we're paying right now, and that is because of the onboarding fee for the first year.
So it's only $4,000 than what we're currently using with Apogee, right? But if we just do the pilot, we're looking at 300 plus the 129, correct?
No, we are only $129,250 because we would be getting rid of Apogee rooms because for the most part, most people aren't using it. So we'd be saving that $194,250 by not continuing with rooms because for the most part, no one's using it. So the total cost for doing the pilot would be $129,250 for Apogee alerts, for our emergency communications, SMORE, and the onboarding fee for this trial.
But not plus 305, I'm sorry, or not plus 301?
No.
What would the other districts be using in the
So,
meantime?
so
Just going back
currently,
to what they're doing?
yes.
Okay.
So currently they have the option to use Canvas or Seesaw, am I correct? And then they have Home Access Center. I believe I'm saying these correct, yes.
So are you only proposing a trial for Grand Oaks feeder? Or you,
Can I ask a question before you answer that? Sorry.
or you could answer it and then she could ask you a question.
They're recommending a
That's,
pilot.
that's what he's recommending.
So in meeting with Parent Square, we found out they purchased Remind Parent Square. So it's going to look a lot similar to our staff who uses Remind, which currently they're not supposed to. But when meeting with them, we found out that they sent 5 million messages, and we met with them, I bet, 2 months ago. So they're using these platforms, and so that's the situation. But we do not want to roll out something and force a platform like we did last year without adoption.
Yeah, we're just recommending to do Grand Oaks, go one feeder pattern because it was all the way through and you could do it and it was clean. And then the second thing is that, you know, when I've actually implemented this system before and it was valuable because I used one feeder pattern so that you get used to doing it. Not saying that people wouldn't want to use it, but I mean, one of those things about it is that you kind of easing into it's always better because you get your systems down. But, you know, it is a good program. I mean, it's the best program in the whole world, and you know, for safety and security, for all those different things, I've found it just really, you know, game changer.
So what's the plan if the trial is successful? Is to roll it into all the other feeders at once?
Yes, and we can actually, we don't have to wait until next school year. If it's going well and other feeders want to do it, we can start it in January or whenever. All they have to do is turn it on because that onboarding fee is for the entire district.
Do we get a refund on the Aptigee?
So that's my question. I definitely like the pilot, and I think that that's what we should do. I just would like a more aggressive implementation across the district, just because that is a big issue, is the communication. I mean, as a parent of 3 kids who gets 35 plus emails a week on a good week, I'm excited about it. And so I know that that's impacting a lot of families, and so I would think it as a miss if we waited a full school year before we rolled it out to other districts. Now, granted, I believe in a pilot. I wouldn't recommend to do it otherwise. But can we get a plan that shows what an expedited implementation would look like across all the feeder zones, potentially either within the full school year, this next school year, or over 2 school years? Like, what does that look like? Because of course we have to account for our staff, right? The training that they're going to need, and the upswing of that training, and of course the families, because when we rolled out, I guess Aptigee is how it's pronounced. I mean, I think there was a miss there because a lot of families don't know about it and they're not using it. I think I've started receiving a lot more messages recently, probably in the last month or 2 with that platform because it says it at the bottom. But nonetheless, I would like to see a plan to be a little more aggressive, still include a pilot, but to get it to our families and to the teachers a lot quicker. So that's the first thing. Then I have a question on top of that is, so as the communication, I think it's great that it comes to the parents as they choose and the language they choose. I think that's really beneficial. What is the retention of the communication? So when teachers or administrators are sending things to families, what does the retention look like within the tool? Do we keep it for a set amount of time? You know, because there's things that happen, we need to go back. Is that built into the platform?
I believe the message history is saved, especially with the you know, teacher to student, teacher to staff messages. That's saved so that we can review it, especially for safety.
Okay.
That is the correct. And the thing is that what you're asking for is the length of time. I will find that out.
Okay. And then I had one other question. It slipped my mind. Let it go back. Thank you.
But yes, we would like to roll this out before the end of the year if it's going well, because we do not want to try to
I just think that's
train people
confusing
during
for
the summer.
parents. If you're telling parents, you know, you're starting out on this and now we're switching to this mid-year, I think it would be easier for everyone to be on the same page at once. And I know we failed when we adopted rooms. That was a massive miss because it wasn't implemented. But was it because we didn't just go for it? Or, you know, I just, as a parent, if I'm using one thing for half the year and then I'm suddenly supposed to use this other thing, I think that's confusing.
Yeah, I was not in when we purchased it, but from what or was sold on it, but from what I've heard, we were sold kind of what it would do, and it didn't do what we had hoped.
Well, we
And so
didn't market it
not-
at all. We told teachers we're going to go full force, and I think a lot of teachers were scared, but then we didn't.
Yeah, the thing is that if we want to do, that's why we want to make sure that we under-promise and over-deliver. But so, if that's the case, if y'all want to look at a more aggressive timeline, we're happy to do that. I mean, the thing is that the bigger thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that you guys are okay.
In our defense, we had a lot on our plate, start
yeah,
of school
we
year
got a
last year,
few-
so a
a few
little
things
grace.
going on, right?
Would,
So, yeah.
would this also replace things like for sports? Like
Everything,
I know
yes.
it would
It would be
replace
everything.
everything. That's great.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we accept a district-wide adoption.
I didn't hear it. Could you say it again?
Are we voting
That
on
we
this?
had,
I'm sorry, it wasn't noticed.
it wasn't noticed? Oh, this is
It's
just
not noticed on here
informational?
as an action item.
Oh, okay, then never mind.
Were you hoping to get action on it
If you could get us then
tonight?
the timeline, I think that would be helpful.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we are doing the trial, we do not need
No, we don't need
board
board
approval.
Because it's on the buy board, and we could move forward.
So we don't need approval to purchase it, it's already been purchased?
No, the thing is that, let's bring Brian Broussard up for this. He's making nervous.
No, it's okay. So the reason why it was brought up as a board item is because in our CH local policy, any pilot programs need to be brought before the board. That can be communicated in the board brief. If you all don't have any objections, then it doesn't have to be brought forth, but because it is, then that was you all's wishes in the CH.
What Brian
It's
said.
an informational item.
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take action, but you've been presented it, there shouldn't really be too many questions. I agree. I know I shouldn't have any kind of say on this, but I agree totally with the implementation of the pilot program, and I really do think that one feeder zone for the year and then a super aggressive implementation the following year would be one of the best course of action, because we think it's the latest and greatest, and if we don't, we can pivot versus, like you said, the mid-year, things of that nature. But anyways, that's why it's in the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Broussard. Is there any other discussion on this item? Okay, I've had a request for a break. I would, thank you, Mr. Stewart. And so before we move on to teaching and learning, and our first ever that I know of, Special Education Annual Board Report and update. So it's 8:40, and we will break for, I know we're not going to be back. I'm going to give you 10 minutes, be back in 10. The time is 8:54. We're back in session. We will now move to teaching and learning. On the agenda and receive our annual special education update. One of the most important presentations we will receive each year, covering 16% of our student population. And one of the most complex and expensive areas of district operations that has not only state but federal mandate regulations.
All right. Good evening, President Odenweiler, members of the board, and Dr. Vincent. This is actually the first annual update. This new law went into place with Senate Bill 568. We are still waiting. TEA is supposed to come up with some indicators for ratings, so they haven't done that yet. So we have a couple of pieces that we'll go over, but it'll be more robust, I predict, by next year. So next June, I'll get another summer dress ready, and I'll be ready in a year to give a more in-depth new type of TEA update whenever they give that to us.
And I apologize, I forgot to introduce you as Dr. Kendra
Oh,
Wiggins.
that's fine, that's fine. It's 9 o'clock, once you get past 8, it's fine. Okay, so really we're going to kind of just talk about a lot of things in special education. The biggest piece that a lot of people understand or don't understand is that we offer in special education a continuum of services. So we offer a wide range of services that start with just instructional supports all the way to a self-contained model. So this is kind of an overview of a visual of what we do in special education, starting with general ed all the way down to a self-contained, which is our smallest population of looking at it. And here's our numbers as of, I think I pulled this like 4 days ago, so it should be stagnant at this point for right now. But we have 12,139 special education students, 16.9%. and 5929 504 students, 8.3%. And then a little more in-depth in our numbers is that this school year we completed 2,634 initial evaluations. We actually have 645 that are still in progress. So we're up 24% from even last year in special education evaluations. We'll probably finish, that'll be like our summer, through the summer, about 3,200 evaluations that we'll complete. And then overall, some of the things that people don't understand about our department, in special education, we have 539 staff members. That's not including teachers or paras. That's kind of just our other staff, right? It's our diagnosticians and school psychologists. We have 172 of them. We have 72 speech paths or speech assistants. We have 95 dyslexia teachers, and then other staff. We have about 200, which could be VI, adaptive PE, Braillists, OTs, PTs, a whole variety of staff. And they office in a variety of locations. That was a question that was asked of who's at Hawk. There's a lot of the others. So we have staff at Hawk, we have staff on campuses. We have a very small cluster of staff over at our central office location. So that's kind of an overview of special education, kind of our staff and what it looks like. And this is our numbers as far as services. This is kind of what we've currently been funded on, and there's the new tiered model, but this is how we were funded in special education up till now by your PEAMS coding, which you had speech, mainstream, specialized instruction, self-contained, and our others. So you can see over the years, our numbers have always been the highest in specialized instruction. That's our typical largest group, but it's continued to go up and grown quite a bit since 23 on. Obviously, with dyslexia moving over, that's our number one change that you'll see. And then this is our budget for personnel for this coming year. So we are adding, like in April when we started in positions, these were the positions that we added, 3.2 million in positions. And then we've continued to have needs because after April, we typically, as you know, when we staff, we're looking at numbers like in February to determine numbers. Well, as y'all know, we do testing throughout the year. So we grew probably by 1,000 SPED students from probably when we initially staffed till where we ended at the end of the school year. So we have had some critical needs of needing more dyslexia teachers, and then other teachers and paras on campus. So an additional 920,000. So our overall needs for personnel is 4,120,000. But knowing that we really still need more staff than that, and that's why we hope that with our new tiered funding and with new legislation coming back in session, maybe we'll get more money in that area because we need it. Because we probably, as Karen talked about, I think a little ways back, maybe in April or maybe in March, that we really needed about $17 million in special education staff to really meet like in the best situation that we could be in. And this just goes over our special education funding gap. So as you can see, to reiterate again and again, we are underfunded in special education. Our numbers continue to grow, and we're not matching that with the funding that we're getting. And we have also lost, on top of that, $10 million in Medicaid loss of money from since 2022 when they changed the Medicaid rules, and we've lost quite a bit of funding in that area. And this is our new funding model. So we're in the process of working through that this summer. We've been really busy. The new funding model is like a tiered model. It's looking at all kinds of pieces, instructional pieces, behavior supports. It's a lot more in-depth, and there's a kind of a formula they put together. We just got that in May. So what we're doing at this point is we are going individually through IEPs and coding 12,235 students this summer. There's a perk, you know, you get a chance to audit folders, look at a lot of things. It's pretty intense. And then I think we were going to talk about a grant that we're looking at too, to help with the cost of all the pieces of that, of having extra duty pay. Because as y'all know, most of our staff are not on duty in the summer. We do have some staff that are here, mostly covering extended school year and different things, but not staff. None of our assessment staff is here for the most part. But this is kind of the different tiers that they're looking through of funding and how we code for that, and we're working through that right now. In fact, it seems like each week we're on with TEA on a webinar. We were on today at 2 o'clock just talking to them about working through this. As of yesterday, we have coded 4,500 in the last 2 weeks. So we're rolling pretty quickly on that, and they're doing a great job, and we have good systems in place for that, to check and spot check all of that. And then our accountability, for our results-driven accountability, being a 1 is the best you can be. This is our federal ratings. They look at academic achievement, post-secondary readiness, behavior, disproportionality. These are our federal ratings. So what you want to be is the lowest. So we are a 1, which is the best that you can be rated in that area. And then our state performance plan indicators. So this is about like timelines and compliance. So our state performance plan indicators is another way that we have accountability, and it's either 100% or you're not. There's not like, if you are not 100%, you have a corrective action. That's how it works. And what they're looking at is your initial evaluation timelines. That 11A is, did you complete the evaluation in the timeline, the required federal timelines? So as you can see, we had a big dip in 24 and 25. That's also when we had the influx of dyslexia. Our numbers were way above our evaluation staff ability to get those done. That was across the state, a problem across the state. We have gotten much better. So I think we'll finish this year with out of all of the evaluations we're going to do. We were out of compliance on 27 evaluations, but we'll most likely still be found compliant because we already did corrective action as that happened. So I just met with TEA today, in fact, on the phone about that. So I do think we'll have compliance fully on that because we already did corrective actions and have a system in place. So the one piece is initial evaluations. The other piece is you can be out of compliant on your evaluation, but if you have the ARD meeting in that timeline, you're still considered somewhat compliant because there's no services missed during that time. So these are the indicators that every year we report on. Right now it's during this time frame, like before July, and then we have those come out, the indicators come out, I think usually in October. And then we have transition and ECI referrals. So those are all the areas for the state compliance on that specific area. The other area of accountability is our college, career, and military readiness. So there's really 2 pieces they look at for special education that they're looking at, and it's graduating with a completed IP with workforce readiness or graduating under an advanced diploma plan. That's a current SPED student. So we're at 89% on that achieved CCMR for special education. All right, and then covering some of our other areas of homecoming plan that we talked about back in, I think that was April. It's gone quickly. Returning our students to specialized programs on their zone neighborhood schools. So we presented all that and talked about that back then. And our overall goal of that was ensuring that every student feels connected to their local zone school community. And that it really was a structural shift. It was just moving students so that all of their services could be provided on their home campuses. They weren't having to go to a campus somewhere else to get the great services they could get right on their campus. And we have a couple of quotes, because as y'all know, we talked about in April. In May, we did our orientation nights, and these are some of the things that they said. Hines, one of our parents, seemed a little unsure of the move, but as she left, she was in love with Hines Elementary. And Hauser, it was so much better than worrying about the chaos that comes with Meet the Teacher. Their son had been talking about all the toys in the new room for next year, was excited. That was at Hauser Elementary. And then Kristen Belcher at Stewart said that the students were excited. One student smiled the entire time and hugged every staff member as he walked in the building. He literally jumped into the arms of the music teacher, and he was excited to see the building and what was in store for next year. So that was, the video is not showing. You got it. Oh, what do I do? Just push. You said you're giving me a thumb to push something. There it is. Thank you. Do I have to push it again and then it'll work?
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna push it again. Oh no, that's not working. Well, and there's a video, and so some of you all have seen the video. We're just going to work with it, and this is entering at Hines Elementary. So they had some cheerleaders there. The kids were excited. It was a lot of fun, and they even got to ride the little husky. I don't have video of that, but I haven't got to ride the husky, so I was very jealous of that. That looks like a lot of fun.
It doesn't stop on its own.
It
does not
doesn't?
have a break, just
Oh.
a warning.
Oh, well, good to know. I'll remember that if I ever get the opportunity. Maybe in the summer they'll let me do that. And then one of our great things is y'all did the first read tonight on that is our CPAC. So this is moving forward. We're moving forward with our CPAC, and that's really that partnership that we've been looking for to work together. So we're very excited about that and kind of our timeline. So y'all had that we need the board approval for that for our CPAC. We've begun meeting and planning for that. The bylaws are ready for adoption. And then we're launching in August. So we're almost there. We're very excited. We actually met a couple weeks ago and kind of talked about some of our goals and actually what we'll have for our annual report of what we'll be looking for y'all for when I come back next June about how that's looking. And then most important, our save the dates for that, because we already have our dates here at Jett for that. And we'll be excited to start our CPAC in September. So I think that's all that I have as far as an overview of lots of things.
Before we start discussion, I wanted you mentioned the coding twice for our SPED students. And I'm not sure if it's Dr. Upshaw, if it's your department, or who gets the kudos for the grant that they applied for the coding funding that we're getting.
It was actually, the thing is that you can give, you guys, you actually helped write the grant, didn't you? Or was you, or
Yeah,
was it?
Yeah, I mean, well, as far as that, like, we just worked, I worked to let y'all know some of the things that were concerned, and kind of, we got a plan together for that. And
Well, whoever is responsible, $100,000 is going to help cover the cost of all that coding that's going on, was number one. And number two, for the record, CPAC was not read tonight. The policy will be read in July. I didn't want anyone up here to be.
Stay tuned for the CPAC policy in your inbox tomorrow. So you're going to see that. But the thing too is that as it relates to all that, I want to give kudos also to Kendra and to Karen Garza, because they're the ones who actually started talking about the notion of how difficult it was to fill this stuff out, and we actually sent to the commissioner our plan. It's not just complaints, but how we would fix it. And so what we did turned into what they do for Texas. So that's kind of cool.
All right. Discussion, questions?
I would like to talk about the funding piece of it, just if you could clarify. So if I remember correctly, before the last legislative session, Commissioner Morath testified before both chambers saying that there was a $1.7 billion gap per year in special education funding in public education. And the legislature, I believe, fact check me on this, Ms. Garza's back there, gave $850 million on the biennium. So definitely we still left a lot of work on the table when it comes to special education funding. Can you translate that into how much we have received, and then also how much you anticipate receiving this year with the funding formula changing?
Do you know how much you can bring? It's not significant.
So we know for sure that we will, based on the information that was presented tonight, the initial evaluations of 2,634, we'll get $1,000 for each of those, so that's $2.6 million. We had that built into the budget this year. I believe we had 2.5 built in. Next year, we're building in about $2 million. We're being very conservative because they're saying a 4% increase is expected statewide, but they only have $250 million for this initiative to move to the intensity-based model of funding. So we don't know even what the weights are going to be for those 8 tiers of funding until they get all the data for districts across the state. Then they will assign the weighted funding to it. So we don't know exactly what that number is going to look like. So at the end of the day, if it turns out the way we anticipate, if we get 2.5 for this year and then another 4 for next year, that's $4.5 million total increase in funding, which clearly does not cover the gap that we're seeing. So we do have some work to do, like you said, to continue to fill that gap in funding from the state.
Be hypercritical when we look through this and we build our picture for the next legislative session, because the 2 buckets that are going to be the most acute are going to be transportation and, more importantly, special education, because funding what we need to do. Because what we do now is basically just cover, what we can cover without, and our kids need more.
When it comes to the recoding, that is obviously a huge undertaking. When is that due? When is that deadline to have that done?
So they just adjusted the deadline, but we actually, in accepting the grant, we had to have 10% done, which we've actually already completed. Our goal in the district is to have it all completed before school starts, because there's just right now our data is stagnant. So once it's easier for us to do it right now, because once all of our staff comes back and we start testing and finishing up evals, then your number starts moving, and that's where we're afraid kids will get missed. So we will finish it this summer, but the first deadline they have is October child count date. It's like the end of October. They've extended where it's 50% of it then, and then December, but we will have it completed almost fully. Our goal is to have it completed before school it starts. I assume at the rate we're going, that'll happen. Unless everyone just decides in July they've had enough in their last couple of weeks and refuse to do it. But I do think we will. At this rate, with us completing 4,500 in the first week, we should easily finish it probably by mid-July.
And you feel good about the accuracy of the results on it?
Yeah, so what we're doing is the admin team, we're doing checks on it. So with every, the staff that's working on it, they have 150 students. And we are in charge, we have teams. And so I'm in charge of 700 students. We each have different people, and I spot check. So after they score their 150, they report in, and then we spot check at least 10 at random, which is typically what TEA does for monitoring. When we do folder checks with them, we're doing the same percentage that they use as their accuracy rating. So.
I have another question about staffing and retention. So the board is able to see the HR reports every month, and there is a lot of turnover in special education because special education is hard. Mm-hmm. Is there any special plan for staffing and retention to kind of control that and work through that and encourage people to stay? Is there any way that we can
we're always
specialize that?
We're always working on a plan to retain staff. So inevitably for us, we're doing a lot of teacher surveys, and we're trying to do specific things for how we can support the campus. So one thing that we've realized through all this is with any new teacher that comes in, there's different levels, right? They could be a new teacher completely, or they could be a new teacher to our district. So we're really trying to customize our training based on the needs of a campus. So that's one of the things of us doing campus support plans, of getting with them and seeing what their staff looks like on the campus and coming up with plans. As far as retention, I wish I had an answer. The state in general we're having issues with, but we do always try and get input from them on what we can do to keep them. There is a lot of turnover in special education. It is what it is. It doesn't make it okay. But we are trying to give the teachers the support they need to keep them in those positions. Even if they change, at least to stay in the district, because sometimes maybe they're working in life skills and we want to keep them in the district. So we really have worked hard if they say they're they're looking to leave, we try to coach them into at least staying within the district in special education in another area.
I just have two more questions because I don't want to eat it up. I could talk about special education all night, of course. But as far as the staffing and the retention, do you ever do surveys for the SPED teachers to get a pulse on where they are and where you can better help them?
So we do surveys with the teachers throughout the year. As far as I think they do surveys if they leave the district, they have exit surveys. But as far as for us, we do surveys about what type of training they're wanting, what kind of supports they're needing. And then at the end of the year, we do surveys of what do they think was effective, how do they feel like support is needed. One of the things that we're finding in general as I get older and older is that it's just a different type of, the new teachers coming in are very different than what supports we needed. So we really are trying to hone into what they feel that they need versus what we think they need. So we've been doing individual surveys at the very beginning of them coming in going, what do you need particularly to be successful in this classroom? And then focusing on that instead of us deciding what we think they need, because there's sometimes generational gaps there.
And the last question I have for you is Parent Resource Center. Tell me the vision for that and where we're heading towards with that.
So what we're really working on Parent Resource Center is, that's where CPAC's a big driver of that, right? So the overall vision for the Parent Resource Center will change as we adapt that from CPAC. But one of the biggest pieces is that we're trying to be more digital on that. As far as even surveys that we've done with parents is parents aren't really coming into a library to get resources. A lot of that they can get online. So we're really trying to rethink how we do that. To some of the things that we're looking at doing is having a bank of videos like that we work with parents and do together of what do I expect at my first ARD meeting and things like that. That's more of a digital resource that parents can access all of the time versus coming in for something in person. Not that we won't have stuff in person, but the overall vision for the Parent Resource Center is going to be adjusted throughout the year once we get that impact from CPAC, because our goal is to work together, because really a Parent Resource Center is for the parents. So really we need the parents to help us develop that. So we're going to be working that throughout the year.
Kendra, if I might, one of the things that we have strategically is we're looking at actually redesigning the whole system to, we have a couple of employees that are working there, and but of course we have no more money, so we're working through the addition of where they go and has openings to work through. And then once we have that, it will become a digital resource instead of, the resources that we have at this moment. Because the second thing that we'll have with the same number of employees, we can actually become more, I say hotline, that's the old term, whatever it is, but, actually, a resource center to reach out to parents, because, they're going to have those kind of questions, and we can do it that way with those employees. Yeah, information, yeah. Very good. It's going to be fun, and I'm really excited about it. And I know we're excited about it, but the thing too is we want it to be right, and we want the plan to be together, and I think again with CPAC it'll be great.
For the non-special education family, could you talk a little bit more about the tiers? What that is, maybe kind of what it's transitioned from and to what it's transitioned to.
The tiers for the funding? Yeah, so what they're looking at previously for funding, they looked at your setting. So they were looking specifically if you were out of special education. So let me go back on my slide so you can kind of see. When you're looking at, there it is. So this is how they did, there we go, funding, is that it was based on your setting. So 21% to 50% out of the classroom. That was how they did all the funding for that, which is just a very small part of special education, because we have students that have speech and they have occupational therapy or physical therapy or behavior supports. So when you move to the new model, which may be ahead
which
somewhere.
Was an old school thought process,
yes,
right? This special education was a place.
Right, it was a place. And so this is more of a service model, and they're looking at all kinds of issues like behavior. Do you have supports? What levels of accommodations do you have? If you have assistive technology, there are students that have devices that they use. Some of those devices are very costly devices that they're using to communicate, and all of that's factored in your funding. So you're looking at all of these areas. So what it does is looking at all the areas of your IEP and looking at it into detail, which does also make us have better IEPs that are more detailed. That's what we were learning through this. And I was just on a call with directors from across the state, and that's what we all said, is that through this model, our IEP paperwork gets a lot better because you're really making sure that you're getting everything down on there, because that's how you're getting funded, but it really gives a better picture of what the student needs.
Yeah, I mean, and to that point where it was, before it was a place, and the funding that we were receiving, it wasn't appropriately aligned, because to that extent, most of it was happening in the gen ed setting.
Right.
And so funding wasn't being given in that instance. And so through this now tiered approach, although there's still a gap in what we're getting, it's going to be a much more aligned, and funding should be much better for us.
Yeah, it's more about services versus a place. Absolutely.
Well, I really loved the presentation. I love that the first presentation that we have, and I think it's amazing that we have SPED front and center. And so, I mean, together between SPED and our 504, it's a little over 25%, 26% of our student population. So them having a place and an opportunity for everyone in our community to know what's happening, I think it's really important and a great step forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wiggins.
All right.
So, to her point, I do have one question. Are we at 17% of our total student population is SPED, or what was that number you said? 25?
Yeah, it's 16.9. So it really is, by the time I do it, 17% is special education specific. And then 504 is another 8%.
Yeah.
In addition to the 17. Okay, so when I first was elected to the board, we were, I think, at roughly 9%.
Maybe like 11 or 12 probably by then. We've grown about a percentage point every year that I've been here.
Is that, okay, so I just want to make sure I'm clear on that 9 to 10, 11. Was that SPED only, or did that include the 504?
That was SPED only, yeah. So our 504 numbers have been pretty sustained as far as that. I mean, really, in the situation with special education and dyslexia, some of the students will potentially dismiss out and go back into accommodations once they finish the program. So in the perfect world, right, that they would get their services and move over and just need accommodation. So your 504 numbers should go up and your SPED numbers should go down over time.
Well, and just a reminder, there was an illegal 8.5% TEA imposed cap on districts, and the federal government got involved. There was federal corrective action. So this is a natural releasing of the 8.5
I'm just trying to get an understanding, because this is a fairly new, these are fairly new practices that we've put into place in the 3 years that I've been here.
Right.
So I just want to make sure, because it's hard to compare, the past to the present, because things have changed. So with the target moving, it's hard to I guess see and project. And then now it's directly affecting our funding, and that's our biggest gap. It appears, and I'm seeing, and it's going to be made right in 2027, but we're kind of in flux until then. So it's a real hard target to pin.
Yeah, and it was all over like how we qualified for learning disability. So that once that's shifted in general for both reading and math, we've had a huge influx of special education since that shifted.
And some might view that as being an over identification, whereas it's really just natural based on the new process, the new standards.
Yeah, absolutely. And dyslexia moving over. So, after, like last year was the last year you could receive services in dyslexia and be in 504. So now to get services for dyslexia, you have to be in special education.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
It'll be a really good legislative priority for us.
Absolutely. All right.
And I'm going to tell you, as someone that's been there and seen the people look at the moms that have managed to work and legislate, they really do respect them. I've seen it. So, and they listen. All right, moving on to the next item. Trustees will now move to business finance. The next item addresses employee compensation and impact on the district's overall budget and workforce planning. So, Ms. Garza.
All right. Well, good evening, President Odenweiler, members of the board, and Dr. Vincent. Tonight, we are asking for the board's consideration and approval of the 26-27 compensation plan as presented in your board packet. It includes the teacher hiring schedule and the 26-27 stipend schedule. The compensation plan includes the statutorily required raises for teachers that reach that 3- and 5-year experience mark as laid out in House Bill 2. It also reflects the new state requirement regarding uncertified teachers, setting the starting teacher salary for an uncertified teacher with 0 years of experience at less than the starting salary of a certified teacher with 0 years of experience. So you're going to see that reflected on the teacher hiring schedule. The total additional cost to implement the compensation plan is roughly $700,000. Under the model, starting teacher pay for a certified teacher with 0 years of experience will remain at $63,500 moving into 26-27. Starting teacher pay for an uncertified teacher with 0 years of experience will be at $61,500. We would love nothing more than to be recommending an across-the-board pay increase for our employees tonight. However, the funding simply is not there. This is a reality that we anticipated. Last year during the budget and raise process, our strategy was to front-load everything we possibly could into the 25-26 compensation plan. We did that with a clear understanding that moving into 26-27, given how the state has shifted how they provide funding for raises, that we would not be able to provide a raise to our employees this year. This plan will allow us to bring a balanced budget for you for approval at the August board meeting. The district remains committed to our staff and will continue to explore future compensation opportunities as they become available. This will be, of course, a topic of conversation as we bring legislative priorities to you, compensation for all staff across the district for the 90th legislative session. So I will answer any questions that you may have at this time, but we're recommending your approval of the compensation plan for 26-27.
Trustees, questions?
I have one question, but it's very specific to the stipends, and it was it might be either a question for you or Dr. Wiggins on the PASS. I see that it's listed here, that position, but the PASS program is being eliminated. Are we still maintaining that role, the PASS liaison? PASS, sorry. Okay, thank you.
Did you get that? Do you need it, or is that good enough? Okay, we'll go with it. Go ahead. Any other questions? All right. So we now will entertain a motion to accept as presented.
I would like to say, just for the record, because it can't be said enough, that pay raises at this level are decided every 2 years legislatively. So this is a constant, I think, not necessarily misunderstanding, but never put forward enough, in my opinion, that it's not a guarantee, and it is a legislative priority always. So
Yes.
want that on the record.
It has essentially shifted that decision-making process to the state. Now, there are districts around us that are doing them, but everybody's financial situation is different. Some are adopting deficit budgets. Some set aside funding last year and didn't give it all last year. So there's a variety of things going on, but, you know.
There's a lot of ways to do this.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
But we only got money, a certain amount.
That's correct.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
I know that we
And
did.
not even enough, having said that, not even enough to give raises to everybody adequately.
We had a bit of a deficit when it came to, insurance, and we switched to the TRS. Do you foresee in the future, once we've gotten caught up to that, that there would be some more room, or do you think next year going in we'll have a little bit of a surplus since we're no longer self-funded?
Well, the money that we have moved to insurance was never really part of the operating budget. So what that really resulted in is us taking away from our savings account. To the tune of potentially $15 million over a 2-year period, plus we have run-out claims next year. So that has eaten away at some of the reserves that some districts have more of and are able to adopt a deficit budget, which is always a risk because you don't know what the legislature is going to do the following year. So you're then committing yourself to a recurring expense that there is potential for no future funding for it. So we feel like this is the most financially responsible option, and it's sad that we can't do more for our employees at this time, but we tried to do as much as we could last year, understanding how the money was distributed from the state.
I move to approve.
Sorry, my watch just started ringing. Sorry. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, show by the uplift of hands. All right, the motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Garza. Up next is planning and construction. This one focuses on facilities, planning for project delivery, considerations of future capital improvements. And Mr. Foster.
Well, good evening, members of the board, and Dr. Vinson. I am here to present tonight for your consideration the approval of change in construction delivery method for one of our 2023 bond referendum projects for Washington High School. We call that a Washington High School Master Plan Phase 1, and that's a master plan because Washington High School 1 has been in service for 75 years. So that building has been through many iterations of schools over its life. Many of that portions of that building have reached the end of its serviceable life, or at least where we need an exit strategy for it. So the 2023 bond referendum contemplated adding some classroom building, a new classroom building, and then renovating the existing building so we could get some more life out of it. But back in February of 2024, we recommended a construction manager at risk to work with our design team, Stantec. It was approved by the board, and we spent our pre-construction period looking at all the building logistics, looking at the site, looking at traffic, looking at drainage, looking at all the things, and there's a lot of land area on that site. So we shifted during pre-construction from a focus on the main building extension and renovation to building a new building on that site. So we could, in the future plan, decommission the main building and basically swap it in locations on that site. We chose that because it didn't disrupt the students while we were there, because we've experienced a lot of our other master plan projects where we've been there a long time, disrupting students. So this seemed like the better model. So our contractor and our design team and our district worked together. We've been through the process. We're about 75% through the plan, so our construction documents are about 3/4 done. They've been submitted to the city of Conroe for their permit review, and so that process is moving forward now. We did advertise to the trades, we did collect the bids, and we were not real happy with the value presented by our construction manager at risk. So we're taking the option that exists in all of our contracts. We've completed the pre-construction phase. We said thank you, we appreciate your efforts, and we're asking you if we can send this project out in the world as a CSP project. To do that, we're going to have to complete the drawings, bring them to 100% completion. We'll get the permit comments from the city, incorporate those into those drawings, and then later this year, we'll advertise and bid, and then bring forward our recommendation for the actual contractor after we receive and evaluate those bids. So tonight, we're actually asking you for the approval to change delivery methods from CM at risk to CSP for Washington High School, the Master Plan Phase 1.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Does this push the timeline back for the construction?
So one of the reasons why this is a great idea is because timeline for Washington High School isn't as critical as other campuses, because they can exist in their existing building. It is functioning, it is working. We have a plan to keep it running while we have construction. We also looked at the schedule. We've taken a little bit more time getting to where we are currently, so we were already looking at the schedule, because in 2027 we open 5 secondary campuses. So we opted to push Washington a little bit deeper, January 28th, and then with this process and then completing the drawings before we get started, we're looking at pushing that to an August 2028 opening. So it still opens within the general parameters of our 2023 bond referendum funding model. And it also makes it an opening all by itself where there's no other schools opening. So it'll make it a smooth transition for all the departments involved in opening a new building.
Do y'all have? Trustee Horton, your mic's on, or do you have a question?
It must have been on.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you very much for evaluating this on the fact that it was going to exceed and that we needed to make a shift was the best option.
Correct.
I would much rather have them get a prettier building, newer building, more pride in what they have, and more up to date than just a reno. So I'm thankful for that opportunity, and that they won't be displaced or have problems with the construction. It'll still be around them because it's still on that area, but it's better. I want to just confirm, did you say that the design documents or the construction documents are 75% complete now?
Yeah, at 75% complete, we typically would submit them to the jurisdiction for permit approval. So they are
Okay.
there, and they are in the city of Conroe's review process right now. So we'll get those back in about another 2-3 weeks. There's been some changes at the city that may extend that out a little bit. But with the current timeline, we can bid third, fourth quarter this year, start work in the spring of next year, and easily make that August 2028 opening.
Okay, so you're expecting to have the design documents finished and ready to go to bid, I'm sorry, did you say spring?
No, it'll be third quarter, fourth quarter this year, so between now and Christmas for sure. The only unknown at the moment is how long it's going to take to come out of the city with their changes in their permit office.
I understand that, thank you. The beauty of CSP is, you know all that you have. I mean, we're building new. That's a big difference
Correct.
from trying to renovate something that, especially one that's 75 years old. You don't know what you're going to come across. The second thing is that having those designs done, we can be more effective and more aggressive, especially in this given climate.
Agreed.
The CSP market, the school construction market right now is extremely competitive, and that's to our advantage. So I'm very thankful that we're now able to shift to this model and give that an opportunity, because I believe for the taxpayers that's going to result in major savings. The second thing is that I was going to ask is, do you expect Satterfield-Ponticus, isn't that who we're using right now for the pre-construction?
Yeah, Satterfield and Ponticus was our
Ponticus,
selected.
okay. Are you anticipating them bidding on the CSP project, or?
I would anticipate them turning in a number two. I mean, they feel like they're vested in the project. I mean, it'll be available to every general contractor who's qualified to turn a bid in the country, really. Anybody who can put a bid together. I would expect them to participate.
I find that kind of interesting because they've already given us their scope of what they thought that they couldn't build. Am I right? I mean, just clarify that for me, that they couldn't build it for the price that we presented them, but it was going to cost more, but now they'll bid on something that is probably going to be a more competitive basis. So I just find that kind of interesting. Okay, we already talked about the projected date. I think between the questions that she asked, I think we're pretty close to answering all of mine. I am so excited about this because I know how critical that market is right now. There are districts that are closing schools. Almost no one is building. They're still doing their renovations, but there's that decline in pub ed, and so for us, this gives us an opportunity to be really smart with our dollars and be competitive.
And I happen to agree with that statement. Now, in May, there were $13 billion-ish of school bonds passed, so a lot of those in our region, so timing is great. So the competitive nature is good now. It will wane on us, but I think we're hitting this market.
I think we're in
right.
a sweet spot right now, and I think that's important for the taxpayers to know and understand that we are constantly evaluating and willing to shift on this.
ma'am.
President Odenweiler, since we're all in agreement or it sounds like you're in agreement with approving this, could we move forward and approve it?
Did you have any questions? She had a question.
Just one more quick question. The building, I know, is very important to the community there and the neighborhood there. Are we in a good place with that? Building a new building?
We have been. I mean, before Nina moved on to the next campus, she was our community advocate locally. Dr. Hartwell Brown also did some advocating, and they got a lot of community support from the people around us. I mean, once they saw the vision and what we were trying to do, the community got behind it very, very quickly.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept this switch from CMARD or CM at risk to CSP?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor show by the uplift of hands. The motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Foster.
I only play a doctor on TV, but thank you.
You have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express once. All right, next item up for discussion. Dr. Vincent, we are moving on to board policy discussion, and I know you were going to open us this evening. I will, while he's getting into place, one of the nuances about first reads is this is the first time for the public to understand. This is the first time for trustees to ever have a conversation and to discuss a policy. First reads are never expected to come ready to go. They're a first presentation draft, and we're moving forward with the discussion on what we are looking to adopt. So
Absolutely. And, actually, Andrew wanted me to introduce him and Portia tonight because I don't ever get introduced. So, trustees, Portia, Andrew, I'm ready to present some information to you. And as President Douglas said, one of the things that's really important when we think about board policy, and we're doing this, it has to be clear, it has to be practical, it has to be enforceable. When you're thinking about how to build policy, it has to have those three strands. And then the second thing is that you really have to have a roadmap to get there. And in this whole process, you see us coming to you with these kind of things. In October, I showed you this, but really, there is a policy need, whether, legislative or otherwise. And then we start researching and drafting it by our policy folks. And then there's legal review. And then we're at this first reading right now. And to President Odenwiller's point, there's going to be a second reading and adoption, and then we're going to organize procedures around them. And so, as they say in Schoolhouse Rock, when the bill becomes a law, there's a little bit of work towards that. So, it's also important for the public to know there's two different kinds of policy. There's local policy and there's legal policy. Legal, here's what you're going to do. Here's how you're going to do it. Local policy gives you the ability to edit, and you must adopt the policy, but you really can clarify, you can expand on it. And an example is going to be dress code. When you work through those kind of things, that's an easy one to consider. And so, one more time, in first reading, this is a draft. It allows you to provide feedback to me, and then to legal counsel, and then what we'll do then, take all that information, and we're actually going to go back and look at it again between this month and next month, and bring you back a second draft. And if there's no changes, which usually there's not very many, then you're ready to consider it. And so, one of the things that we've talked a lot about over the last couple of months is bad law, good intentions. People they want to do this kind of things, and they say, this is what we're going to get done. But at the end of the day, when we're making these decisions, we really need to be careful. And so when we're thinking about what we're doing, is we're not taking action tonight. We're doing a first reading. And so through that whole process, you're going to give us feedback, input, and then we're going to go back and then we're going to evaluate it, research it, and we're going to give you the goods, the bads, and the ugly to make sure that before and we adopt whatever we adopt, that it's going to make good sense for the people it's intended to help. And so we're going to bring that back on the 7/21 board meeting. Does that make sense? And so with that, the thing is that you saw in your board packet that we've done things a little bit differently, but we want to point this out, that there's a lot of things in the board packet that were just simply law, or the stuff that we've seen a lot that we've already discussed, and they were in there. So what we've brought out are the laws that you guys have tweaked specific to Conroe Independent School District. And so, those are the things that not necessarily what everybody else is doing, but what we're going to do. And so those are CKC local, DBAA local, and DH local. And so I've given you a really handy dandy, well actually Portia gave you a handy dandy packet with this information here. And we're going to talk a little bit about, if it's okay, the three policies that we have before us tonight. Is that okay? Yes. And so with that being said, CKC local is something that you guys had requested based on communication during threats and urgency. And so in that whole process, one of the things that we went back, you challenged us to go back and look at that. And so you wanted us to make sure that in policy and then in procedure, that we have a district procedure to actually navigate violent activity and communication after that. And so what we have provided you in CKC local in your handout is in that red information there is the addition to what we'll be adding to CKC local. Nothing really much more, nothing really much less. But there is one provision that we ask, and that's been a conversation to us, and I know it'll be a conversation to you. There's one component of this, because this comes straight out of the law. What is real-time communication? Well, the thing is that Andrew says that sometimes to load up a communication that's going to go district-wide, it's going to take 20 minutes. And in other situations where, Chief Blakelock will say, we have to go give it to the threat assessment team. And then we have to assess all those different things before we can communicate it. But by process and by plan, one of the things that our goal is procedurally, we're going to make sure that we get communication out to as quickly as possible, to as many stakeholders as possible, as clearly as possible. And this actually is a board guide that will help us do that. And it'll actually put one of the things that you guys requested into policy. And so I did give you, and you've seen it a couple of times, Chief Blakelock's take on real-time information and FERP and all those kind of things. And so, again, making good law, what we're going to make sure that we do, we're just going to follow the law in this particular situation, but we're going to, as we create processes and standards for this, we're going to make sure that we do what's best for the kids and stay within the guidelines of the law. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about CKC. It's pretty straightforward.
Trustees, any questions or discussion?
I don't know.
All right.
Wait, I'm not ready yet.
Oh, so sorry, I didn't hear you.
Let's see. Oh, I'd like to make a motion to add to the wording on CKC. Any notifications provided under these procedures shall be coordinated with law enforcement and emergency response officials when practicable to prioritize student safety and support emergency response operations.
I think that Chief Blakelock would like that a lot.
Trustee Semler, do you have that motion for the trustee, or that amendment in motion for the trustees?
I sent it in last night.
I think it's in your folder. I think Ms. Spurlock gave them all to you to be able to try.
Oh, do I have to?
We'll be able to incorporate that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
so that's meaningful, just to go back, I need to read it, but you're saying that you're amenable to it, and Chief Blakelock says it's doable. I'm getting a shaking head over there.
That's one of the
My
things.
intent was to make sure that notifying the public doesn't contradict whatever law enforcement needs to do.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what.
It's coming, and you'll
One
be able to
other
see it and hear
just
it.
suggestion.
Where they are.
Just suggestion, Madam President. You guys can take official motions tonight and vote, but you also can just give feedback and we'll
that
go
would
back
be
and
so much
incorporate it.
easier.
So you don't have to do anything.
Oh, that would
And
be
that's what you've
faster and
always, you
easier.
previously on first reads have just given feedback and then the superintendent and staff go back and try to incorporate, unless, there's a contradiction in what you
It's
want.
a first read, and that's
Ms.
But up to
Lilly,
you.
when I was asking about that, though, you told me multiple times that I should make a motion in the emails, so that's not what I do.
And I apologize for that. I was meaning making motions to the board operating procedures manual, but I think tonight you can just give informal feedback if that's what you want to do.
That may have been my mistake for you in that I asked you to bring printed motions, but you gave them to us as amendments, and I apologize for that miscommunication.
Okay.
We actually have a lot of your things that we've been adding.
There've been a lot of
All this
emails
stuff is
going
fresh
back
as
and
last
forth on
night,
that.
but there's stuff that today that's been really cool. And the second one is DH local, and really what it does is a couple of different things that I think that you'll like, and it's basically on your request, is it really broadens the net of service provider in terms of when, we think about how we include more people. There's certain situations, and there's actually Texas law that, there are people that come and work on our campuses that interact with children on occasion, not directly, but indirectly, that might have records and those kind of things. And there's laws that exist to make sure that those people are notified and we know who they are. And so this actually adds one more element into the people that are on our campuses. It keeps our kids safer. As far as, when you're thinking of DH local, it really organizes it into this part of one more group of people that would be under the net of our safety and our security. And the thing is that it's really important. Words matter, and there's words like that we're trying to work through that with Kara that just like as we refine it, we'll take a word out like person or something like that. But in the general framework, this is really going to help keep our kids safer. That was the recommendation number 1 on DH local. The recommendation number 2 gives, when it used to just say texting, but my goodness, there is all kinds of Snapchat, DM, images, videos, YouTube, WhatsApp, Discord, Reddit, LinkedIn, Pinterest. Yes. And so we've added a few of those, And I think it's going to be important to broaden that net in terms of communication, because one of the things you guys said is we need to be very clear about what gets communicated and who we get communicated to. So we're trying to make sure that we take
Can I
care of
ask
that.
a question about that,
Sure.
or do you want to go through the whole thing first?
You know what? What do you got?
Well, regarding the electronic communication, does that mean that coaches and any employee cannot interact at all on Instagram, Facebook, if it's on their page, or is this referring to messaging?
That's a good question, because the thing is that, there's kids who like my posts and stuff like that. I don't know if we know what we need to work on that, because, I'm really cool like that. And I want to make sure that we're legal. That's a good question. And so we'll work through that. Because that is a form of electronic communication. A lot of people laughed about that, and they shouldn't. But the thing is, and Kara, I don't know how she could find any more, but she found about 5,000 of them, so that's great. Recommendation number 3 is remove the current provision that provides, this is a part of the law. Yes, ma'am?
Sorry, while we're talking about electronic communication, I was just kind of confused by part of the wording. It sounds like we're saying they can't use electronic communication at all.
Yeah,
But
I
then
have that
in
down
like
too.
the numbers, it says, well, here's the ways that they can use. So I don't know if that was just like an error.
Are you talking about on page
wording
320, are you talking about on page 321?
It's under, I just have like the page 2 of
okay.
the document, electronic communications use with students.
So the way the policy reads right now is that essentially certified employees can talk with students so long as the superintendent or the principal, so long as the superintendent or the principal signs off in writing. So
And
if
is
you read
this
that
for, like official communication?
yeah, so your current policy says right now, and it's crossed out, a certified employee, licensed employee, or any other employee designated in writing by the superintendent or campus principal may use electronic communications as the term is defined by law.
That's a recommendation 3.
Yeah.
And so that actually covers that, so that
Is that
actually
what
gives the
you're referring
provision.
to?
Could we
I'm
just
sorry.
say, only electronic communications approved by the district shall be used to communicate with currently enrolled
Yeah.
students?
Yeah.
And
I'd
Because
take
I
that
mean,
out.
our staff's going to be communicating with
Yeah,
students
and
through
that's really
this
confusing.
new
Yeah.
parent
So
room
that's-
or whatever it's called.
Actually, that's the thing too. I'm leading you into the water here.
Yeah.
This is going to be fantastic, because
So the
I just
idea
want to
is-
make sure we're clear in here that they can communicate
Yes.
through approved channels,
So
right?
what this is saying right now is, number one, the idea here is to remove kind of the two-tiered system where certified employees can communicate so long as the principal or superintendent signs off on it. That's what your policy reads right now, and then other employees, are more prohibited in what they can do. So this removes the requirement that you kind of have 2 tiers and just says, in general, employees cannot communicate with students, and any employee, unless it's through an approved channel. And the district has to write procedures to determine that approved channel.
I think we just need to look at that specific wording, because it says right now that they cannot communicate.
It does,
So,
yeah, it's very.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we just need to be really
just
clear
say-
on what
just
we mean
say
by
they can
that.
only
Yeah.
use communications
Paragraph.
approved by the
we
district.
can definitely
Great,
do that.
great, perfect.
And the thing too is that even though with regard, that weird provision that I could like designate somebody to be as a texter, that was weird. So we just took it out, and because I didn't want that responsibility. And the third
But
thing
that's
is,
currently in our policy.
yeah, but I'm thinking about dominating some people. Anyway, and the third thing is that really there's some administrative things that we're going to do like Parent Square, because you take everything away, just like you're talking about. What do you give them? And so we want to make sure that we give them something that they can use, and use it well, and know how to use it, and are trained to use it. It'll be great. And then through this whole process, there's been a few questions about this, and Melissa, similar. We were talking about questions from trustees. There was one question about should this include reporting, and so I thought, oh, does it? Well, that's covered in the FFG. So we've cross-referenced the policies and those kind of things. So your questions have really helped. I mean, we love it because it's going to make sure that we're good. And again, these practical features and functions. I mean, it's what we're doing. Policy that makes sense. Is there any other questions about debt policy?
I have some just general questions about how we're doing policy, if that's okay. Now a good time to.
Absolutely. Well, can I get through DBAA local real quick? The last thing is that I have this is one more thing about safety, and it's a DBAA local, and it's enhancing pre-employment screening. And one of the things that y'all got from your visit with the district attorney is that we need to make sure that we're signing an affidavit to do that. And what do we call it, Nicole? Exhibit A? Artifact?
Yes, Dr. Upshaw would call it an artifact.
Well, I'm cooler because I call it an exhibit and or an artifact. Anyway, the thing is that we've been doing this since way back before it was cool in 2025 because it became state law. And I gave you, in your notes, it talks about this is a requirement. And this once you hit that, once those are done, it does start screening the people to take care of it, And so when we do that, we're just making sure that we have that affidavit. We do, in fact, have the affidavit. And the second one is when we're talking about this, there is legal counsel incorporated a deal called pre-employment, which is on the second page. Really, that is that's a law, a Texas Education Code. That's a law anyway. So to shorten it up a little bit, if this changes, then you have to go back and change the policy. So if it just says the Texas Education Code, we'll just keep that code, and it'll change, and it'll be more evergreen. Does that make sense? And so because the law might change a little bit, but this way it'll stay that way. And as long as you just have the Texas Education Code, we'll be up to date. And then there's just little bitty things. I mean, Kara and I were looking through this on recommendation number 3, just talking about there's certain how we phrase things, but there was some extra verbiage in there that we're taking out just to make sure that just through the process about the district personnel. But we're down to that part as far as that goes. I mean, so really all 3 of those policies are going to make kiddos safer, make our processes better, and do it in a practical way. But the idea about, even like Trustee Horton's talking about with regard to the other deals of how communication works, because, well, one thing about it is if everybody's watching me on the World Wide Web, I don't answer direct messages because it's not official, and so I just have people email me, So, but I mean, we need to have that as a static deal. But other questions?
About like general policy or?
No, now let's go to general policy.
Okay. I was just wondering, originally I thought T was drafting our policy, but now it seems like we're directing all of our policy through Kara. And so I was wondering what our process is for drafting policy.
It's a great question. I talked to Kevin O'Hanlon about that over the weekend. And one of the things that, because we're getting down to the where we know, have Dr. Upshaw helping me and those kind of things. And so I'm going to, hopefully, I was going to put in your board brief, but, we're trying to need a relief on as much communication. But we're going to propose a plan where we sort of go back to where it is as far as, providing that T provides them. Because we talked to T2, and then that way I'm going to give you a process of how it would work. And I've talked to Kara about this too, and it should work. So none of the things get missed. It's just a little different way of doing it. So, but it is and it's not. But this will make sure that we're there. You want to add to that?
Yes, I was just going to state that in this particular case, there were a whole slew of legislative priorities or policies that came forward.
Yeah.
And T does, a blanket. These are what how we interpret it, put it together as far as the local type policies. 10 of them we didn't even take up. Because they weren't really necessary or we were already covering them.
Yep.
But then from there, between administration.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. So 10 of them 10 of the T policies you're saying we didn't use?
We didn't bring them forward because we weren't needing to change anything. There was nothing that we even had to adopt. Would you like to clarify that?
Yeah, you guys had, some of you had stated, and so we were trying to follow this directive, that unless it was making an actual change, you weren't just going to regurgitate law into policy anymore.
But we're doing that in a lot of the policies we're doing
There
right
are
now.
several where you are doing that. But because a lot of the T policies, and sometimes this just happens, are just a regurgitation of law into policy, and that's for a whole bunch of reasons. On those policies where it just seems like it was just repeating law straight into policy, given the direction the board had given, we didn't want to move forward with those.
And so all I was going to say is the changes that were made to the ones that came from T were ideas like you just went on regarding safety and security.
Which ones came from T?
They all came from T.
These all came from T?
They all came from T, and then they got modified based on things that the board has directed as far as safety and security.
Did they come from T recently?
Yeah, these came from, so they came from T, and then the staff and I reviewed them together and made modifications to like make them consistent with the things that the board wanted and that the staff thought was appropriate. And so those are the policies that you're seeing.
You were both CC'd on the email from John that said that T hasn't done any legislative updates since like February.
Yeah, he provided these legislative updates in February, and the board the board wanted I think a 30-day layout and some other things, and we've just been working it through. And so he provided the policies in February, and I think the staff have just been working through the policies.
When we say the board, can we be clear on what that means?
Well, the way I took it is, last month we all made a public statement here that we wanted to make sure that we strengthened our security and safety around our children and parameters for things such as how we can protect our students better, whether it's in communications or whatever. We all supported what Trustee May had made a comment or her statement regarding that. That signals to them when they look at the policies that are coming forward, are there anything we need to strengthen, change, or do we just present these and say we can adopt these as they are, or we can make these work, or?
So I want to know, when we say the board, is that like, and so with these policies, a lot of them say board requests. Did members of the board specifically request that policy, or are we reading into that statement from last time and just pulling those policies?
I mean, all I can tell you is that T provided policy drafts to staff in February, I think, for this round of policies, and that since February, staff have been working to go through them, take suggestions from each other, take suggestions from me, take suggestions from Dr. Vinson, and then try to incorporate what we understand to be the board's desires in these policies.
Can I ask a quick question of our board members? Did anybody put forward any of these policies, or any of these policies sponsored by specific board members?
No.
I asked for an update to DBAA.
Mm-hmm. You did DBAA? Okay.
Correct. I'm just curious, Trustee Semler, it does seem like you are satisfied with the way that we're doing it. Do you have a solution? Do you have a different procedure or process?
I'm trying to understand. It's not. I don't understand how our process works. I don't. I want to know when it says board request. I want to know if it is coming from a specific board member, or if this is something that's kind of more broadly read into. Like, I don't understand.
Trustee Semler, can I just jump in for a second? This is what I understand. So T had sent like 9 batches of legislative updates, and there was about 55 policies that we needed to update. They sent it from, I think, November through January, okay? Now, given the transition and everything that was happening, we were not, I think in the past, people tend to adopt batches, right, of policies, like with TASB and such. You would just adopt a batch, but we did not do that. I don't think there was any particular reason. I think it just kind of, with the transition, it just kind of fell through the cracks. And so
kind of seems like we have been doing that when we put them in.
And so can I finish though? And so we've been slowly working our way through the T updates by having Kara review them. Now, I think for the future, for this next legislative update, when T sends out batches and it's just state, it's literally copy paste, I think it would be better to adopt them all at one time instead of, because they have a legal team as well that reviews, and I would suggest to Kara, review for consistency, but if we're not rewriting things unless it's like absolutely needed. Yeah, so that way we can get through this more quickly and not piecemeal each policy. Yeah,
I would completely agree. And can I just add just one really quick thing? We also just got the wonderful new staffer. Edith has come on board, and so the district has a couple more folks in place right now to work on this full time. So, because it really shouldn't be at all coming from your general counsel's office. Like I should not really be involved other than to just do a legal review. And so one of the things that we're trying to do now that there's appropriate staff in place is completely move this to be a staff review and driven process.
So in that, but now the whole throughput will be the T will send it directly to us instead of to Kara, who was originally having that origin, and then so they will have them work through them from our end of the stick, and then send them in that. And but like you're saying, you know, the goal that you have is you wanted to have like-minded policies in terms of how you wanted to work. I think the T shares that value, and so that it wouldn't take so much time to do it. Yeah. And so what I want to do is I actually have a flow chart that I made. I'm really proud of it. I also did it in AI. You'll be very impressed. And then we'll send that to you for your review so you can see it. Because I think that now is the time. I agree with you in this process now, and so I think it'll help us.
I also was wondering, I remember when we looked at the T contracts, we get billed by the page for custom policies work, right? Are these custom policies that we're doing? Like, since we're adding so much to the T policies, are they custom, and are we getting billed from T, or are we getting billed from ODC, or both?
Actually, I think that the customization is going to go through Kara from the legal counsel
And it was
perspective.
part of our
part of our agreement.
Okay, so it goes into our plan?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not really getting
No,
the
we're not paying for
extras from T? Okay.
So we've still got several more policies.
Okay, yeah,
Can we
these
at
are the
least
three
get
that I
through
have.
those tonight?
Yeah.
It is 10 o'clock.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm done with my stuff as far.
I just want to make up to her point because I think this might be confusing, that this came from the DBAA, for example, came from T,
Yes.
but that is a policy that was adopted by our district in 2013, so.
But there was
But now we have it again.
Well, the updates were made to that existing policy, so this is our,
Okay.
was that clear or not?
I mean, kind of. I'm wondering where all these updates are coming from is really what I would like to know.
And I agree with that. I emailed Ms. Blue and asked her to, when she sends out, or when these are included in our agenda, when these are put on the agenda, that it's important context to know what is driving the change, if it be a trustee, if it be a district
Absolutely.
administrator,
And it's,
where it's coming, because that is crucial.
And we're not bringing any,
understanding where it's
really,
We
the thing
have
is
like,
that,
14
that's
policies,
good.
and it
I agree.
didn't seem like any board members had asked for them.
And that's
Yeah.
expected moving forward, for the record.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and I'm happy to answer any other policy questions that I'm on fire.
Okay, moving on. We've already addressed the CH. We moved on CJ. DEC we moved on. For clarification, because it was several hours ago, are we at DP or did we?
No,
or
we
DP
did.
we did in the consent.
The only one that I think that you're done left with, and I don't want to say it.
FOA,
I have FOA.
I have Q and R.
and I did have Q, R, and we already did S.
And I wanted to talk about GKD, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so Q, R, so we're at Q and R. So moving on to FOA. Trustee Semler, did you find your amendment suggestions?
No, they're not in my folder. I don't have those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, when you're ready. Thank you. I was going to say, if you don't mind standing there to answer any questions
look at me.
or whatever.
I'm fan. I look fresh. 10. It's good.
It's still early.
It is.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Can you remind me, what policy are we on, Ms.
FOA.
We are on FOA, which is item Q, if you're flipping back in your documents.
So mine, there's a legislative policy change noted with this policy, but the policy far exceeds the required legislation, which I thought was, I just was questioning what we're doing with it, and if there was a board member that had wanted that. I was particularly concerned about the return to class plan because it requires a lot of signatures before a student can return to class. And I'm familiar with these plans for suspensions, but not for, I'm familiar with them for suspensions, but I'm not familiar with them for any disciplinary reason, and I was worried it was going to make it difficult to return students to class and they might miss valuable learning time.
It's actually a good question, and the thing that, when you sent that to me, the first one, I thought it actually had passed. Okay. Senator Perry and I went round and round on House Bill 6 because he wanted to have these return to class plans and all these really specific things. And so in the end, when she said that, I thought, that sounds like Charles Perry got all the rest of that stuff through, which means you had to go through a lot of hoops and a lot of, sign-offs to be able for a kid to return to class after he's been naughty. Well, it's, again, I always say good intentions is bad law. A little bit of that's rough. Well, and actually, I thought, oh no, this is what's happened. Turns out she was right. The real law was less than that. It was trimmed back. T had added because a couple of other school districts had wanted it in there. And so what we're going to go back and do in the next month is go look at it again and see what we can do to make it easy, practical, and sustainable, and hold kids accountable. Because, I mean, you know, discipline-wise, you know, if there's, you know, new sheriff in town, as it were, but, I mean, we want to make sure that it's actually usable. Make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think we should probably remove the requirements of the return to class plan. So that's
hey,
not too
good,
much
good.
on
I'm going to have to call Charles Perry and apologize to him because I thought I was just besmirching him, but he didn't do that.
And just so you guys are aware, I had asked Mr. McCord and Dr. Vincent, we were just talking about bus drivers as well, because the title does have bus driver in FOA. And with, you know, some grievances that we've had in the past, I just want to make sure that our drivers, you know, have a voice.
You know, one of the things that,
Yeah,
I'm glad you pointed that out. One of the things that we're trying to do right now, even so far as our whole bus system and the discipline and when we put the discipline matrix and stuff like that together, is make sure we're equipping people, our employees, for discipline. And then the second thing is that we're having practical measures to support them in terms of the discipline process. And so, you know, our commitment this next year is to kind of go through and do that. And that, you know, it's really nice having Juan because he was actually an assistant principal knowing how to do that stuff, which is really great. And that's where that journey is going to start. Like I say, January or July 23rd when we start working through our discipline matrix. By the way, our discipline matrix that right now, they're being developed according to elementary, middle, junior, and then junior, intermediate, and high school. They're going to be amazing. It really is good. It's going to give such a good roadmap.
I think it's worth noting that there was no existing local FOA.
Right. Yeah.
Worth noting.
Yeah. Absolutely. So so at the end of the day, you know, what we're trying to do is create practical and reasonable plans that are going to be enforceable.
The thing I also want to reiterate is that we did have staff, administration look at, are they implementable? Can we be compliant?
Yeah, the thing is that...
Is there something they would like to see more?
Yeah. And the thing is that, you know, when we get down to it, you know, you think you've seen everything. I've always said every day I see a new thing about how we're working through stuff, is I want to make sure it's right. So thank you for pointing that out. Anything else?
I think is that anything else on those before I move on? No. All right, GKD.
Oh.
I know.
Now, just everybody, just FYI, this is second read, so you can adopt it. It's eligible for adoption as a policy tonight.
Go to sleep.
Very different than your other ones.
So I did have a statement on DKD. As we've worked on DKD, my consistent goal has been to expand community partnerships and extracurricular opportunities because I believe these efforts directly benefit our students, families, and the broader community. Specifically, my intent has been to reduce barriers to participation and establish mutually beneficial community partnerships that support student success. Throughout this process, I repeatedly requested to be removed as sponsor of GKD if the policy did not reflect that intent. The current version of the policy does not reflect the changes or objectives I advocated for. While I appreciate our attorney's consistent efforts to draft and prepare the various drafts of this policy, I cannot speak to the intent behind the current revisions because they are not my revisions. I do not wish to support a policy that is not aligned with my stated goals and recommendations. I understand that a second reading does not necessarily require my sponsorship. However, I want to clearly state that although I remain listed as the sponsor of this policy, the current draft differs significantly from both the version presented at first reading and the policy changes I originally requested. Therefore, I formally withdraw my sponsorship of this policy. I would also like to add the purpose of the consent agenda is to bundle routine, non-controversial items together for a single rapid vote without discussion. Any policy receiving one or more dissenting votes on first reading should not be placed on the consent agenda for second reading and should instead be considered as a separate action item. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. McCord, I know you and your team have worked very hard to bring something forward to the board that we can be compliant with, y'all can be compliant with. Currently, we're not operating in compliance, so is there anything you want to add?
Well, I just quickly here, I know it's late, but I just want to go through some differences between the proposed revised GKD versus the original GKD. Yes. So first off, the new GKD, first off, we've really started working on this in October of 2025. And we put a lot of time into this, so thank you. Special thanks to Brandon Stiles, he's in the back. He's in the blue checkered shirt. He's the guy that makes this work for the community day in and day out. So thanks, Brandon, for being out here late tonight. First off, definitions. The new GKD, it gives definitions. And a lot of people worked on this, but really Kara put the lion's share of work in it, in really giving definitions into what the groups are titled and who they are. The existing and original GKD did not contain definitions. The new GKD is electronic and it's centralized. The original GKD was very much analog, and the process started with the building principal. The building principal is a busy young man or young woman or older man or older woman, depending upon how you look at it. But they really don't have the time to do the vetting of all the organizations. That's where Brandon comes in and the district comes in, and then we can work collaboratively with the principal to try to work something out that works for the campus and the principal, the administration, and the district. So the new version is centralized, electronic, it's already centralized, and it reflects more accurately what we really do. It delineates a scheduling priority of groups to use our facilities. And we already do this, but the new revised GKD as proposed really does that. It gives us expanded ability to prevent groups that damage our facilities from using our schools or buildings, which is important. One thing it does, the old GKD, more of a practice than a policy. We had a practice of scheduling things no longer than 90 days out. And so really what that was to do was intended, for example, if any of us were going to go on a trip and say we were going to Disney World, which I can't afford, but some people probably can, if we booked it a year out, things come up. It may be a problem. But this gives us, in the actual words, as far out as reasonably possible. I will want to accentuate with the school district and Brandon and the team, when there a conflict comes up, it is very rare. I think maybe once in the last few years we've had to cancel an event. That we work with the groups to try to figure something out, whether it be at that location or somewhere else. This does give us the ability to do a more extended time to book something in advance. It's my vision, at least for me, that the rental people schedule around our children's activities and not the other way around. So that's important. It does set up insurance for all, that all renters would have to have insurance, including fine arts instructors that do instruction during the day. And thanks for Dr. Horton for being out, and also Coach Ferris, who does the athletic part. And that the renting groups would be required to have training on equipment prior to using the building. And the best example I could use for that, when I was a principal, we had an auditorium. Little did I know when I signed up for the gig that I was becoming the entertainment director for South Montgomery County. And that the auditorium was used almost every night, whether it be Les Miserables or Cat on the Hot Tin Roof or West Side Story, which I really didn't know was Romeo and Juliet until halfway through the show. But it requires them to get training on this expensive lighting and audio equipment before they use it, because that equipment is inherently fickle. Dr. Horton has had accurate representation of facts. So there's a lot of good things in here. The old GKD worked. The new GKD, I think, is enhanced, and it really accurately indicates what we actually do and should be doing. That's just us. We're just here to serve at what you want us to do.
Thank you all so much for all your hard work on this. I do appreciate it. It was a lot.
We try, and really a lot of each of you contributed. And really dating back, we started in October. So
just so I'm clear, because Trustee Simler's comments they have me a bit concerned. Just so we're clear on the changes that you proposed that were reduced, where will we see that? Like, is that visible in the drafts that were given?
It was complimentary, reduced or waived fees. If I remember correctly, the intent was to provide reduced fees for providers that are working with our students directly after school, and that entire section has been redacted.
So those changes were put in, and now they've just been struck through.
No, we shot down that last policy.
But
That's
I'm
why
saying
they're
they were
not
put in
there.
the draft, and then they were struck through for the second reading.
We did, and then between then and now, something was added about how nothing where the district loses any money can be rented.
Okay, and that, I did notice that in reviewing it, and that was something early on we did discuss, but I guess got trumped somehow. that we would be willing to lose a little money if it were warranted on a case-by-case basis. So that's no longer, I guess, applicable.
Based on my understanding. In the 9-month period we analyzed in the previous year,
Yeah.
we were at a net delta loss of over $150,000. So I guess it really depends, it's whatever y'all
Yeah, it
want
was
to
going to
do.
be at the discretion of, or it was going to be with discretion, but it was, I requested that particularly and had conversations with Dr. Vincent about that, so.
I think that's too tedious to go case by case on that, so. I would like to motion to adopt GKD as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of adopting GKD as presented, please show by the uplift of hands. All opposed? Motion carries 4-3. All right. Thank you, Mr. McCord, and all who have worked tirelessly on that. If I am not mistaken, that is the last policy item for us to consider, which means we have made it through our posted agenda and concludes it. If there's no further business, the meeting is adjourned. The time is 10:22.